And let me just go like this. All right. Do. Almost time to put the radio voice on.
Wait, you have a radio voice?
I
It
do.
sounds the same.
No. Watch, I'm going to deepen it up here. Hi, Deb Alaska. Kristen Alberg, you're looking lovely tonight. Olin, always a pleasure to have you here. Miss Dill, that's a good quality pickle right there. And
Real Dill.
Stephanie Perez is here, everyone. Give her a round of applause for joining us tonight. We're on in 30 seconds. Our guest tonight, Duke Sullivan. We're talking Bigfoot out in Montana. I don't know what the hell this guy's going to talk about. He's talking my ears off already. I've had to take my headphones off 4 times. Great way to support this show, everyone, is hit that subscribe button. We are less than 340 away from 10,000 followers here. You can sign up for the SOR Newswire, the Thought of the Dave, all that stuff. And you know what? Let's just do this show. What do you say? Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show and our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio, along with KPNL out of Oregon. If you want to take a listen to our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out a Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. I'm telling you, we are in for a wonderful show tonight. Why? Because it's Bigfoot night with Big Bad Duke. Brian Duke Sullivan is an intrepid researcher of the crypto world in his home state of Montana, a Bigfoot eyewitness, and the founder of Montana's Bigfoot Project. Duke will discuss his own experiences that started as a child when he was sledding outside one day with a friend. Took him down some trails, and then he saw Sasquatch. Yeah, Duke has spent over 40 years researching this topic, and he has come to several conclusions regarding the type of creatures that are hiding in plain sight. Duke, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. It's actually an honor to have such a professional show host me. I really appreciate it. Hi to everybody out there in the listener audience. Love all you guys. And, you know, another thing I like about your show is the intro music. Bumblefoot is just awesome. And we need more shows that talk about Bigfoot that actually have really great intro music.
I got lucky.
In addition to your show, you got some guys in the audience right now, Beast TV. They got some really good Sawdust Beast. They got great intro music, too. So let's keep that trend going, guys. Those are who are creators out there.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. You know, I got a lot of pressure from people to say, you got to get Duke on. You got to get Duke on. So we got Duke on, and let's get Duked now. All right? Let's drop the gloves on Bigfoot here. You know, you and I aren't that far apart. I'm in central British Columbia. You're in Montana. There's a lot of Bigfoot in between here where you and I are. And I'll tell you, man, this is a subject that just seems to be picking up some steam over the last couple of years in regards to the research, the sightings, the technology that's out there. And we're going to get into all of that tonight. But first, let's learn about you, your experience. What got you into this 40 years ago?
Well, it was totally against my will. I'm not one of those people that went, hey, cool, I'm going to go research Bigfoot. This sounds interesting. No. I was just the opposite direction. I was just out with one of my friends sledding and had an unfortunate encounter. And this was in February, second week in February 1972. And the reason I remember that is not so much because the dates are important. As a kid, you don't remember that stuff. It's because we had just come out of a ridiculous cold snap. so I could go look up the record on that. The county next to us had an all-time record low of 52 below. So now that the cold snap was over and it was only 20 below, we decided it would be a good time to go sledding because we were tired of being cooped up. So one of my friends came over and we went down to the end of the fire lane next to the house, which was about maybe 2.5 miles out in the middle of nowhere. Now, I had noticed years before that the fire lane just dead ended. They couldn't continue to make it any further because there was a big bog there about as long as a football field. You couldn't get across with equipment, so why make a fire lane? So the snowmobilers used it too. They had a turnoff right there that went along the hillside because, you know, they didn't make a trail across there. There's nowhere to go from there. But now that everything is frozen nice and solid and that bog's frozen nice and solid, we went, hey, we can get across that bog and there's a big steep hill on the other side. Let's go see what's over there. So sure enough, there was a big steep hill, and on top of that was another big steep hill, and there was a third big steep hill on top of it. So we were in sledder hog heaven. We're like, oh my God, this is awesome. We can make like the biggest sled run ever and not have to share it with any of the locals being here all the time. And we'll just totally set her up. So we went up there and scouted the whole thing, and it was, you know, we took our little plastic sleds and we made a big luge run, and we built supers on the two corners so that we wouldn't go flying off and hit a tree. And then we figured that was it for the day. We'll just come back after it gets warm enough to actually melt and everything gets solidified. We'll try it then. Well, sure enough, that was, you know, like I said, second week in February. At the end of the week, I think it was on the weekend, he came out again, and then we went back there, and sure enough, it had gotten warm enough to melt a little bit. Everything was nice and solid, nice, you know, Minnesota-made luge run. And so we were going to test it out. So we had made 2 runs down it already. We made a slow one where we were dragging arms and legs to slow ourselves down, and then a second one we were kind of medium speed. And I was heading up to the top to do the third one. We weren't staying together for the reason that this is like really dangerous, and there were trees all over the place. You know, this is just regular wooded hillside, extremely steep. So if one of us went off and hit a tree or something, the other one better be in good shape to drag him back out of the woods again. So we were taking turns. So one of us would sit about halfway up the hill, and the other one would go up to the top and go down again. So like I said, I was going to do the first high-speed run down the hill, and I got up to the top of the hill and flopped my sled down and was about to turn around and go down, and I realized something didn't look right. Didn't look like this last time I was up there, and I couldn't place what it was exactly. So I looked again, still didn't place what it was, and then, you know, like a little voice in my head said, no, that scene doesn't look right. So I looked again, and sure enough, what was out of place is that, you know, this is a bare hillside. Well, I mean, there's lots of trees on it and everything, but it's the middle of the winter, so there's no leaves or anything like that obscuring vision. It's mostly hardwood trees, so no leaves on them. The only place where there was any cover was over on my right, where there was a big black spruce tree. And what had caught my attention was this big old black spruce tree previously only had 1 trunk. Now it's got 3. And I looked more closely at it, and I noticed that the other 2 extra trunks that weren't there before had long hair on them, grayish-white, with little snow dingle balls in it. And my first thought was, well, somebody found our sledding run, because there was people that at that time had snowmobile suits that, you know, the pants actually had like fur on the outside of them. I don't know why that was a trend or whatever, but that's what I figured it was. One of the local kids had found our sledding run and was just about to scare us or whatever, and I was just kind of ticked off. I'm like, damn it, we didn't even get a chance to use this thing yet, and somebody else already found it. So I looked up into the spruce tree, you know, at about my eye level as a little kid. That's not very tall. And then looked up a little bit higher if it was an adult. I didn't see anybody. And then I realized there was a rustling a little bit further up than that. And I looked up, and sure enough, at the 9-foot level, there was this extremely creepy face looking at me. And this is about 40 feet away. And he had both of his hands. One of them was holding one branch up, and the other one was holding the other branch down. And all of a sudden, he realized I saw him, and he had this like shocked look for a split second, and then he gave me a big grin. And
oh wow!
At that point, I realized this is a critter that I don't know what the hell this is, and I am getting out of here right now. And luckily, I had already been planning on doing a high-speed run. But apparently, when I was coming down the hill, it was even more ridiculously way high speed than what my friend Dave expected. And he already had this kind of look on his face as I was getting closer to him, like I must have been pale white with bulging eyes. And as I got close, I just yelled, "Run like hell!" And I just kept flying past him on the sled. And he apparently didn't see anything, didn't know what happened or anything, just jumped on his sled and followed me. And that was my first encounter. And then I got really curious about what the hell was that thing out in the woods after that.
Man, you know, when I had my encounter with two of the creatures back in 2013, we saw one behind a tree kind of doing the whole peering in and out. And we could just make out, just barely make out facial features because the face is so dark. The second one that was probably at 75 feet away from us, 85 to 75 feet, that one I got a full right side profile and back profile. I never got to see the face. I do recall, though, that there was no neck at all. And it's just amazing the features that people can describe. I mean, this creature smiling at you, I would have loved to have seen that. As much as it would have scared the daylights out of me, especially as being a child like you were, I mean, that's impactful on the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah, let's face it, when you're 10 years old, you're fairly short, and even a 6-foot-tall adult looks pretty big. You're looking at something that's apparently in the 9-foot range, that's really, really scary. And, you're a long ways from home, and nobody really knows where you are. Remember, this is the secret sledding spot. So that definitely adds to the whole creep factor. And the other problem here is that this thing, whatever it was, wasn't a regular Bigfoot. And
what do you mean by that?
Well, let me explain. After I saw this thing, I got curious and went, well, what the hell was this thing? And started trying to look into it. This was 72, so there was like virtually nothing out there. And I found the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I looked at that, and I went, well, that's similar, but it sure isn't what I was looking at. I don't know what I was looking at. And that's when I started doing a whole bunch of research on the Wendigo and everything up in the closer to the region that I was in, trying to figure out if that's what I saw. And still to this day, not entirely sure. I tentatively lump it into that category because it was not a regular Bigfoot. And the reason is that most of the Bigfoot have either like a human-looking face, or some people describe it as an ape or gorilla-looking face, or a combination of the two. This thing had a face that it looked like a younger orangutan, not the older ones that have the big jowls on the side of their face, but like the younger one that's got the really flat, tiny nose and really long distance between the nose and the upper lip, basically no lips, really wide mouth, like almost from ear to ear. And when this thing grinned at me, it did not have the giant chiclet normal Bigfoot teeth. This thing had nothing but frickin' canine-looking things. It looked like great white shark teeth.
Oh, yeah, you didn't have to mention that. You did not have to mention that.
Yeah, that was the grin part. This wasn't a friendly grin. And then both of its fingers, I could see its fingertips because it was holding a branch up with, one hand and down with the other one. And it had what looked like black talon-like claws on its fingertips. So again, does not match Bigfoot description. And now I found much after that fact, as I was doing more research on monkeys, great apes, primates in general, that one of their standard behaviors is if they're startled, they react like with aggression immediately. And in this case, I had startled it, and it was like, oh, human saw me, and so he grinned. And what a grin means to a great ape, and by the way, if you see Bigfoot in the woods, you can smile at him, but don't grin with your mouth open, because showing your teeth to a great ape is a threat. And when they show their teeth to you, they mean, here's part of the arsenal I've got to tear you to pieces, back off.
I believe that. You always got to be part of the warning signs, because you have to make sure that whatever you are doing, that safety is always the first priority.
Yep, absolutely. Well, if you don't survive the encounter, you don't get to tell anybody about it.
No, but it's one hell of a good story when you die. You go up to the pearly gates. How did you die? Bigfoot.
Yeah. I told the research guys I'm with, if you ever see a Bigfoot attack me, don't try and stop him because you won't be able to. Just start filming.
That's all you can do. That's actually good advice. Good advice.
I want the evidence. I want the evidence of what killed me.
Duke Sullivan is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio from World Bigfoot Radio and the Montana Bigfoot Project. Duke, I want to ask you, in regards to this creature, there are so many different distinctions and stories that are out there. You have the research crew who believes that they're conducting science. Most of them end up conducting opinion instead. You have the people who make fun of this creature. You have the people who believe that Sasquatch are a people too and should have voting rights. You have the indigenous ways where they believe that it could be a shapeshifter or some sort of interdimensional being. What's your take on all of this? Where do you stand?
Parts of all of the above. Next question.
This is where it's your turn.
Sorry to do that. They are flesh and blood. We've already done the DNA on them. Melba Ketchum did the DNA study. She had over 100 samples. Other labs besides her own testing facility were involved. They all got the same result. It wasn't just hair samples. They had like a toenail that Robert Kreider had collected down in New Mexico and other various tissue samples in addition to the hair samples. And the results came back as mitochondrial DNA human, nuclear DNA unknown. So nuclear DNA doesn't match to anything we've got in the catalog. But we know what it is. So at the point where you get another Bigfoot DNA sample, you can match it to that unknown one and go, well, it matches to this unknown one. So the unknown one right now is technically, Sasquatch hybrid. Are all the Bigfoot hybrids, or are some of them hybrids and some of them purebloods? Some people think that. There's more testing ongoing. She's been able to determine that the hybrid branch it goes back thousands of years, at least 12, maybe 15,000. So there's that thing going on. So that's already been completely categorized and is listed in Zoobank's Genome Bank, in case you guys want to check it out. So yeah, we have known DNA sequenced for Bigfoot. So, other than that, we have tens of thousands of reports from people, eyewitness encounters, tons of tracks, blah, blah, blah. How much more evidence do you need? Obviously, it's a real thing. Why are they suppressing it? There's a better question.
Who's suppressing it?
Well, obviously, the people that do everything they can to stop Bigfoot researchers or to discredit Melba Ketchum. There's some guy right now that's writing a book trying to claim that her study was flawed. And he's got Dr. Meldrum wrote the forward for him to try and make him look legit, which I find laughable, considering they didn't even bother to check the typeface on the book and notice that they had misspelled the word forward. So you can take this book seriously if you want to. I'm sure not going to. I know a bunch of the people that were involved in the study, and it was legit. Legit as the day is long. And there's ongoing DNA studies. Dr. Igor Burtsev, the head of the Department of Hominology in Moscow, Russia, has got another one going on right now that's getting tests done in various countries at different labs.
I want to ask you, before we get into some major stories after we turn the corner here at the bottom of the hour break, why do you think there is such competition, territorial demands, attitude, infighting within the Bigfoot community? What's the purpose of this? I mean, it just seems so ridiculous from an outsider's point of view.
Well, it seems ridiculous from an insider's point of view, too. That's why I wasn't involved in the community for so long, because it was just looked like a bunch of petulant 5-year-olds ganging up on each other. Really, I don't think there is a Bigfoot community. Not, like a community. There's factions that are part of a community that don't get along with each other. They've all got different opinions, and they clump up behind whoever's got the opinion that they like at the time and then ridicule everybody else. And part of the reason that it doesn't come to a stop is because paid trolls are encouraging it and trying to get researchers to fight with each other and trying to whip up their audiences to make them mad at each other. And another thing that's going on is just the people that are involved in it. In order to be a Bigfoot researcher, you got to be a really strong alpha personality that is not an external validator. So you don't really care what other people think that much. You're going to keep looking into it no matter what, because you want to prove to all of them that they're wrong and you're right. Well, that takes a whole lot of ego, and people with egos that big don't generally work well with others. And a lot of them have this, I want to be the guy that proves Bigfoot is real, not realizing it's already been proven. And, some of them have this, I'm going to go shoot a Bigfoot and bring its body and show, my buddies so they know I wasn't kidding when I seen one. Well, other people have tried that. It doesn't work out well for them. So I think part of the problem is just a lot of the people involved in the whole Bigfoot research thing are really, have big egos. That's why they're involved in it. So it makes it difficult for them to work with others.
Well, I understand that. But, everything that we do today has a differing of opinion. And I think that's okay for the most part. Except when it comes to whether it's the paranormal world, and ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, I mean, people are ready to absolutely destroy one another. It's not a pretty field whatsoever. And it's broken off into a bunch of different cliques because you have the people who are like, I'm conducting science, even though I've never taken science since grade 11. You have the people, you have the true scientists who are looking into this. Then you got the Squatch crew, and I hate that word. And that immediately, as somebody who's an outsider, the minute I hear the word Squatch, I know not to take your work seriously. And then you have a multitude of different groups that have broken down their research, and what they've done is they've pinpointed it so acutely that they're not willing to hear or see or review other evidence because it doesn't fit their own mantra. How could you solve something if you're already eliminating evidence or potential evidence if you haven't even studied it?
That's the problem with the experts. They want to pretend that they know everything there is to know about it, and therefore they don't need to listen to anybody else or review any new incoming information or anything because they already know about it. And a lot of these guys you'll see are repeat offenders. They're putting out book after book after book, and it's like, well, when's the last time you even saw a Bigfoot? Well, I've never actually seen one. Well, then why are you writing books? Where's your research? Don't call digging through other people's books and archive information and then compiling that as research. And don't call taking people's reports and compiling that as research. Get your lazy butt out in the field and do some frickin' research.
Okay, but how do you conduct research, as we got about 3 minutes left, if you're not a scientist or you're not someone who is familiar with how to conduct a proper type of experimentation? I mean, just walking.
All you need to do is,
just walking down trails, looking for tree structures or footprints or some sort of foreign poop on the ground. That isn't research.
Research is just the scientific method, which is to say, you have a hypothesis, you go out and test it and see if it's valid or not. And if you get the same result a bunch of times, you talk to somebody else that can do the same research, and they go out and see if it's valid or not. And after you get about 7 or 8 of them saying they all got the same result, then you start thinking there's a pattern there. That's actual research.
Yeah, and so you have to develop those patterns, and a lot of people don't.
No, and fortunately for me, I have really competent researchers all over the continent that we can check each other's results against and go, I'm seeing this a lot in my research area. Do you guys ever notice that? Yes. Or I will check the next time I'm there. And then you start getting information back, and you can start comparing your information to what the other researchers are finding. Then you can start developing patterns which will give you a better picture of the phenomena you're dealing with.
Very true. Very true. So why is that so hard for people to accept in the Bigfoot realm?
Well, here's the problem. They won't work together. You have to find a whole bunch of Bigfoot researchers that are really competent in different parts of the country that don't have egos and actually want to learn and work with other researchers. That's not an easy thing to do.
I get that, and I understand that.
That's why it's been so slow, because not only is there natural factionalization because of the egos involved, but there's also people interfering that are trying to start problems between them so they won't work with each other. So that's been the big holdup for years. That's why there hasn't been a whole lot of progress in people actually doing real research. And you don't have to have a degree to do research. I automatically discredit what scientists say most of the time because they're on the other team that wants to claim this isn't real. So they're not real scientists because they're unwilling to actually look at the evidence. And that's my opinion. Why? Because of who's paying them doesn't want them to look at it.
It is a complex scenario indeed. What do you think as we, I'm going to hold off on that because we only got about 25 seconds left before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. And I love your feistiness, Duke. I do. I think it's refreshing. I think it's refreshing for the community. I think it's refreshing for the listeners. And I think it's something that, is needed. And all you're really asking for, it's pretty simple. Let's work together. Let's solve this mystery. Let's get it done.
Exactly. Yep, you nailed it. That's it. Let's all work together. Put your stupid ego aside. You don't need to prove Bigfoot's real. It's already been proven. let's go get information on them, figure out how they're doing things.
Bingo.
How do they make a living? Where do they live? How are they doing things? This is the information that I've been working on, yeah.
Right. Duke, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Duke Sullivan, Montana's Bigfoot, coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. So
okay, good. I'm not going too fast now, Mike.
No, you're perfect. Okay, I know we have a lot of first-timers here in our YouTube chat especially, so I just want to kind of go over everything with you guys. We are a live-to-tape radio show that this show will go out on terrestrial radio stations, and so the reason why we go to break is we have to hit that timing session. But you guys who are in our YouTube chat right now, you'll be able to hear these conversations during the break that we are talking about. So that way, you guys kind of get a behind-the-scenes look at everything and what we do. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So if you're wondering, well, geez, how come they went to break? What the hell is this? What is going on? I've never seen this show before. Well, that's the rules. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So, because I have to time everything out for our radio stations. When after the show, when you guys all get to go to bed, I get to go to work and edit up the show into sections, and hopefully there's no swearing that I need to edit out. And then we send it over via files to our radio station. So when we are at break, that is the reason why, and I hope you don't mind. Hey, R. Keith Andrews, Inner Voice Enterprises, how are you, buddy? Lynn Sows? Are you Lynn Soos? Lynn Sows? Lynnessus? What are you? Roy Boy, good to have you here. Who else just popped in? Solar Warden, thanks for coming on in. We're at 163 people. I did see 165, so that's kind of cool. Nice and early. Justin, good to have you here. Duke, you having fun yet?
Yep, sure am.
All right. I'm having fun, too.
I'm just tuning in YouTube here so I can see who's in chat.
Oh, everybody. I don't even know half the audience tonight. That's how many people are in here right now.
They're probably all my homies. Thanks for showing up, guys. Love you.
Aaron is here. Nikki showed up. Human Carl, everybody. If you're a veteran like Human Carl, you deserve a few claps. Enjoy these claps as well if you are a veteran, because we love our veterans around here, especially our good friend Human Carl. Not to be mistaken for Alien Carl. We have to make that. Snakes on a UFO Snakester, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Wayland, boom to you, my friend. Who else just popped in? Boots on the Ground with Burb. How are you? Good to have you here. And, just keeps growing. 170. We got to hit 241. 241 is the record. Thurston Howell III. How's Lovey doing? Big Rob, what is going on, big guy? How are you? 241. That's where we got to be. I think it was 241. Maybe it was 224.
What's your single guest best number?
241. And then
I thought that was a multiple group guest number.
Oh, single guest number is 213 by Grant Cameron, and we hit last night. We hit 203.
We may get the single guest big number here. We'll see.
Well, let's hope.
These people to pile on in.
Yeah. Well, the 10 o'clock crowd hasn't showed up yet. Hi, Ed Clater. Welcome. Hey, Long Island Bigfoot. Thank you for the super chat. Cat Chaser, thank you again for the super chat. You guys are awesome. It's a great way to support what we do for this show. Thank you so much. Love you guys for that. That just means a lot. If you're looking for some Bigfoot shirts, Dave Woy, is it Woy or Wodge? I think it's Silent J. I prefer Silent J. Dave Woy? Woy? Yeah, there we go. Dave, what's going on? Project Blue Book, good to see you. Shanna Banana, thank you for coming on in, gorgeous. I'm like literally two of your people for every one of mine in the chat room tonight. This is awesome. Let's
Love my followers. Love my followers. They are just awesome, man. I got as great a guys as you got over here on your channel.
You know, that's awesome, man. You know what, though? I say we say hell with the Bigfoot, and let's just go bass fishing, because that picture I used of you, I would like to go bass fishing with you. You know, I've never caught a largemouth bass. We don't have them up here.
Well, I'll tell you what you can really catch a lot of here in Montana is trout. We got like every kind of trout you can imagine.
Oh, same here. Same here. I'm so sick of catching trout, though, man.
Because it's all you got to catch. Everybody else in other parts of the country are like, I want a trout. There's none around here.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I miss back home, though. I miss back home because we used to, I was fishing anywhere from 4 to 7 days a week on the river during salmon season. That was great. You get into the rapids and you're fighting like a 35-pound salmon. That was a blast. Hold on, everyone. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Really do appreciate each and every one of you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we continue on with Duke Sullivan, Montana's Bigfoot. He is the head of Montana Bigfoot Project. We're talking Sasquatch all night long here on the show. I love this topic. Duke, welcome back, man.
Hey, great to be here still. Howdy, everybody.
All right, we got a good description of what you think Bigfoot is in the first half hour of the show. You also mentioned your close encounter. When you decided to start looking into reports of this creature, were all the reports very trending the same, or were they different, as in people seeing different creatures?
Well, when I got involved in actually looking at reports was 1975, and at that point there wasn't much of anything out there. Occasionally you'd find a newspaper article or you'd see some hokey monster show on TV, and that was all I had to go on. So as far as I knew, for a couple decades, I didn't have any other information to go on. And when the age of the internet hit, that helped a whole lot because it made information a lot more readily available. But, back in the early days, it was the old school Bigfoot thing. There's some kind of weird ape running around the woods, yada, yada, yada. And that was all I had to start with. So I didn't really pay that much attention to the Bigfoot community for a long time. About every 5 or 10 years, I'd check in to see what's going on and usually be disgruntled and then go back to doing my own thing. That's one of the things we were talking about in the first half hour, problems with the community such as it is fighting with each other. Well, the positive side of there being a community on the internet is that people actually can share information and network, which was not at all the case when I got involved in this whole thing. So, the more information is available, the more you've got to look at, the better picture you can draw from it. And for years, I spent trying to figure out what it was that I saw the first time. The second time I saw one was in 77, and that was right at my house. And that one, I'm not sure what it was exactly because it was night. I couldn't see details on it. It was just squatting in the driveway in the dark waiting for me to walk into it. And no facial description, can't tell exactly what variety it was, just, didn't seem friendly, sitting in the dark waiting for me to walk into them. So, at that point I went, well, whatever these things are, I can't avoid them by staying at home. I need to do some more research and try and find out more. And again, like I said, this is 77, so there still wasn't much of anything available at the time I had my second encounter. So, it took years and years and years to compile enough information to get kind of a picture on this thing. And one of the things that became apparent as well, there had to be at least 2 types of these furry hominid things running around the continent because, Patterson Gimlin got a video of Patty. That's real. It's some kind of primate, weird-looking thing. And then what I saw was, clearly not the same thing. So that means there's at least two kinds. When I started doing research, and Bigfoot Outlaws were helpful in this regard because they had done so much research with different groups all over the South for decades that they had come to the conclusion that there was more than one kind down there that they classed as type 1 and a type 2. And the type 1s being the more human-looking ones, which generally are bigger, and the type 2 being the more ape-looking ones, which are generally smaller. And the skunk apes could be a variety of the type 2s. Now, the type 2 face looks more like a chimp face or something, so again, doesn't match with what I saw, and they don't no description of them having the massive arsenal of teeth and claws that the first thing that I saw had. So that made me start going, well, there's apparently 3 varieties, because this, again, doesn't match up with what I saw. And by then, I had enough research in to know that even within family groups, there's wide variation. They don't really look that much like each other. But this is so far out the realms of it being like normal variation within a species that it points toward, yeah, there's more than one sub-variety at the very least running around.
I'm going to ask you.
And then okay, go ahead.
I got to ask you, have you ever encountered any reports regarding childlike Sasquatch?
You mean like the size of kids, or?
Yeah, like maybe mother and Sasquatch baby or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I run into that stuff all the time. I've found tracks from juveniles.
Really?
That's fairly easy to do. Yeah, as long as you're where the adults are, the juveniles have to walk on the ground too, and they don't weigh as much. So they don't generally leave the giant obvious tracks. You got to look a little bit more carefully. But sure, we just got tracks of a juvenile that had a 10-inch long print last spring, about 14 miles away from here on Blue Mountain, and that was stomped into the ground about 3 times as deep as our tracks were. And I weigh 240, and Mike that was with me weighs around 300. And we were both standing right next to it, not making an impression on the ground. But there's that little fat 10-inch track right there that got pressed in like a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So they're extremely heavy even when they're little.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened when we found our first print up here. And my buddy Mike was out grouse hunting. And he decides to pull his vehicle over on a very well-used logging road. And those logging roads with the big trucks and tractors, that is very compressed gravel. And anyways, he gets out of his vehicle, about to find a place to go to the bathroom, and he looks down, and there's this 18.5-foot print, or inch print. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm just about to pee on this print, like it's, but the fact is, I mean, Mike at that time was probably like you, weighing about 240, 250. He's a stocky, bodybuilder type guy. And he started jumping up and down in his boots, and his boots wouldn't sink into the ground. And yet here's this print in the ground, where you have to be as heavy as a vehicle in order to get that type of print into that type of surface.
Yep. Yeah, believe it or not, I've actually got a height to weight conversion chart for Bigfoot that somebody put together a few years ago. And 18-inch track, you're probably looking at one that's between 800 and 1,000 pounds. So yeah, it's going to make a big crater in the ground when he steps on it.
Well, the reason,
and a lot of people ask, why don't you find like whole trails of Bigfoot tracks and stuff? Well, generally you're not following Bigfoot around through a marsh or something, and that's the only place you would find something like that. Because they're not dumb. They're trying to hide their presence. They're trying to hide their tracks. And the older they get, the more they're aware of the ground they're walking on and how solid it is and whether they're going to leave a track or not. So occasionally they make a mistake and they leave one.
Okay.
But you don't generally find very many of them together. The most we've ever found in a road before was 4 tracks that were 17 inches. And then this summer, which I haven't even released this yet, we found 3 19.5-inch ones right in a row. Man, but generally you only find like one because they don't make mistakes very often.
Okay, so why do they try to cover up their prints?
They don't want evidence that they're around. They're trying to hide themselves from us. That's why it's so hard to find them. They have natural, ridiculous skill at this sort of thing since they practice all the time. And they're trying to avoid humans seeing them or knowing that they're there, which is why you see a lot of these roadside crossings where you have somebody going, well, I was driving home at 2 o'clock in the morning and this thing ran across the road. How big was it? Well, generally, if you listen to those reports, you're hearing about something that's 7 or 8 feet tall. That's a teenager. the teenagers might be actually playing this as a game. Let's see if the human will panic and crash, what they're going to do. And that's generally why you find a lot of these tracks in the 14 to 16-inch range and not a lot of bigger ones, because by the time they get bigger, they know better than to leave tracks.
Okay. So how big do you think this creature actually gets?
Where?
Okay, so
they get really big where I'm at. They get really big where you're at. They get really big up in northern Canada and Alaska. And by really big, I mean 14 feet or bigger.
Okay, so the size difference between what we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest, up into Canada, right into the Klondike, comparatively to these 5 to 7 footers that we are hearing about in the swamps of Louisiana, Texas, and in that area, are we dealing with different creatures or different species, or have they acclimated to their climate?
Well, I think, like I said to start out with, that there's basically sub-varieties across the continent, and I'm pretty sure there's at least 3. There could be 4, and 2 of which are, hypothetically in the class with Bigfoot. They could be other sort of biped, furry-looking things that actually aren't Bigfoot. We don't know. We don't have DNA from them. But as far as that goes, that's just natural science for animals and stuff, too. The further north you go, animals of a specific type will, of course, be bigger. And the reason for that is because of conservation of heat. If they have more mass in comparison to the overall surface area on the animal, they maintain their heat better. So, this naturally leads toward animals, the further north you go, get bigger and bigger and bigger. And somebody, said something about that one day. Oh, what about elephants? And I said, yeah, woolly mammoths, they're extinct. Next question. So, first of all, you're going to get animals bigger as you go further north. Down by, let's say, Louisiana, Arkansas or something, if you see a black bear, 300 pounds. You get up here where I'm at, 500 to 1,000 pounds. You get up in Alaska, 1,500 pounds. Same thing holds true with them. And they need to be able to actually best the other apex predators in their environment. So if you got some pitiful little 7-foot Bigfoot going up against a 1,500-pound Alaskan Kodiak, it's not going to be there after the fight. So they won't tend to reproduce and make more Squatches because they're too little. And conversely, if you're down in the south, the same thing is true. It's a really humid, hot environment. They need to be a little bit smaller and not have so much tremendous body heat building up all the time. Could be the reason that a lot of them like the wetlands and stuff where they can stay cooler. Just like the ones in some other areas favor the higher mountainous areas where they can stay cooler. That's what they do here. During the summer, they go up to the high mountains and stay cool. And then during the winter, they come down again. They tend to follow elk herds and, plentiful deer supply and stuff like that around. But there are big ones in the south, and there are little ones up here. They're variable like humans are. I know William Lunsford about a month ago found several 21-inch tracks down in his research area. And I think he's in between like Texarkana and Falk, basically. But there's big ones down there too. Blaine Tyler, I was telling you about him earlier before the show. He just recently found several 21-inch tracks up where he's at in northeast Ontario. So, where Blaine's at, that's more normal. Where William's at, it's not so normal. But it doesn't mean they don't get big. You still get people that see, 10-foot Bigfoot down in the south. They do get that big. Again, it's just that the preponderance of the huger ones, I think, are further north. And because, they have a bigger forest area to wander around in, you're less likely to encounter one of them. And, even the old natives will tell you that, they learn as they go, just like we do. They get better and better and better at what they're doing. So even laying aside any potential paranormal abilities, the more years they've got of hiding from us and not letting their tracks be seen, the better they get at it. So really, you almost never see one of the big ones unless he's really screwed up or he's mad at you and wants you to see him. And that's usually pretty much it.
Duke Sullivan is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking Bigfoot all night long tonight. A lot of people tend to think that this creature lives along water areas. So if you want to have an experience, you should be near a lake, a stream, a river in order to do that. Is it because obviously, the obvious answer, we all need, and every creature needs water to live? Or do you think that it's much like humans, where it wants that continuous water supply in order to help grow its own area and territory?
Yeah, they do. They absolutely love that sort of territory. One of the best places to look for them is where there's junctions of rivers and lowlands, swamps, and stuff like that, especially if there aren't roads or anything in it. Those are places they favor heavily because, first of all, it's a perfect environment for them, and secondly, humans don't go there. So when you got that combination of two things with a rich natural environment and humans don't go there, they're probably there. The other thing is with the waterways, as you pointed out, yeah, they want to drink, so they have to be fairly near water, but they can make use of really small water supplies. On one of the mountains I was doing research on, there was a seep that was about 2 feet across, and there was a 19-inch track right next to it. So here's this teeny little water seep here that they figured out where it is that they're using for water supply. But in general, yeah, they'll stay near ponds, rivers, lakes, stuff like that, especially if it's got, regular cover and food and not a lot of human intrusion in it. The other thing to keep in mind is that they use waterways for their highways. Those are their Bigfoot highways. And Bigfoot like to move around at night. So if you're down by some isolated riverway in a riparian forest at night where there's not like trails and humans usually hanging around, there's a pretty good chance there's some of them around there. And a lot of people have these encounters where they go out night fishing on some little pond that nobody goes to, or some little river that people don't usually hang out at, and they go there at night, and next thing you know, they're getting yelled at or having rocks thrown or, branches thrown at them, that kind of thing. They're getting the display, hey, you're in my fishing area, get out of here. And they do seem to think of it that way, too. I was talking to a native elder in one of the tribes over on your side of the coast there, and he was saying that basically his tribe had a deal with them where it was like, we get the daytime, you get the nighttime. We'll fish the same rivers and stuff. We'll be there during the day. You be there at night. And I think, they sort of have that idea that that's the way it's supposed to be, and humans aren't supposed to be on our fishing rivers at night. Get out of here.
Well, there's a famous story out of the Chehalis River in British Columbia. Oh, this is going back probably 20 years ago or so now, where there was the Coho Run was on in the Chehalis, and there's a little canyon area that fishermen like to kind of crawl into. It's very difficult to get there and dangerous to get there, but you can never stop a fisherman from finding the perfect fishing hole. And anyways, these couple of fishermen claimed that on the cliff that was so they're standing on the riverbank, then you have the river, and then you got this probably 150 foot high cliff, and there were 100 200 pound boulders coming off that cliff right in the middle of that pool. And I mean, the only thing, a human isn't going to lift it. They're going to roll it over. But this thing was, they were watching these giant boulders actually being launched off this cliff and into almost hitting them. Like they were getting splashed by this. So the idea was it Sasquatch? I mean, that is one of the theories that is out there. But I mean, this creature at times can be very territorial, especially maybe if there's young around or maybe you're in a hunting or fishing spot. So my question to you in regards to saying that story is about territory. Is the creature highly territorial, or is it a vagabond that just kind of follows the food trails?
Yeah, there's two different schools of thought on that one. Of course, as you just pointed out, there's people that think that they basically migrate, and there's other people that think they stay put. And I'm in the they stay put camp. Couple reasons for that. The people that think they migrate are falling victim to the fact that they have a very large range. So they will take advantage of the food sources that are available within their range at different points of the year. Like, hey, it's fall, all the berries over in that patch are available, let's go nab them. And they'll be over there for a few days eating all the berries. Hey, these trees over here that we know about all have apples on them right now, let's go get them. So even though they're not in the same area all the time, they're in their same range, and they could have a, pretty big range. I think their range is sort of limited on how many members they have in each group, because, they can't overburden their food supply. And then the other thing, of course, being the availability of the food. So in really rich areas where there's a lot of wild animals and there's plenty of veggies and all that kind of stuff to eat, their range is going to be smaller because they don't need to move around as much. I'm pretty much convinced that there's one group of them that lives right here on Mount Sentinel, right behind me, because there's an elk herd that's up there year-round, and you find evidence of them up there year-round. So I don't think they're moving anywhere. And the other reason that I don't think migration is really very likely is because there would be conflicts. These large, apex predators moving around from point A to point B. Oh, let's go over here and see if there's any food. Oh, there's another group already over here. Well, then there would be a fight. And we would hear about it because they would make noise. But that kind of stuff isn't really going on. And that's another reason I think they kind of stay in certain areas. We find markers that they put up that, hey, this is our territory. And in some really rich areas where their territories are like butting right up against each other, you find a lot of these things. They're marking where they're at all the time so the other troops know, oh, no, you're in our territory now, be friendly or get out sort of thing. So, I do not think that they migrate around. I know that used to be one of the favorite theories back in, 60s and 70s. Oh, my God, they migrate from Northern California all the way up to Alaska. Yeah, what about the really big Bigfoot up in Alaska that are already living there that don't want visitors? I don't buy it.
Okay, so do you believe there are passive-aggressive groups? Like we see this with killer whales in the ocean where you'll have the big pods, but then you'll have a rogue pod of whales that has been kicked out of their original pods for one reason or another, and they are kind of like the stray cats, so they all kind of get together. Do we see that, you think, in the Bigfoot world where most of them, especially what I've noticed here in the Pacific Northwest, most of them seem to be very, very passive, not wanting to deal with people, but are there those rogue groups that are very extreme on their territory and whoever or whatever is around them?
Yeah, absolutely there are. As a matter of fact, one of my friends that does research down in that area has virtually guaranteed to me that that's what's going on in the LVL, land between the lakes. That the renegades that are being thrown out of their own groups because they can't comply with the group's internal rules are basically ganging up in that area and all, made their own little group. So basically, you could say the LVL is where all the criminal Bigfoot are. Don't go camping there. Bad idea. This stuff does usually come up. The good news is that if you've got groups of them that are hostile, they generally won't be anywhere near where humans are because they wouldn't interact well. And in short order, the black helicopters and goon squad would show up and they'd be gone. So that's why you don't hear a lot of these, interesting reports of missing people right near these towns. Yeah. It's usually out in some big wilderness somewhere where that's going on. There's, they're like humans to the extent that there's good ones and bad ones, and most of them are just kind of neutral. They want to leave us alone and be left alone. And the ones that really don't like humans and, don't comport with regular Bigfoot behavior, like I said, will gang up with each other, and those are the dangerous ones. We call those groups eaters because that's what they will do to you. They don't comply with the normal rules. So you don't want to run anywhere near into those things. The other problem that you run into is if you run into a lone Bigfoot, you can usually expect, 99% of the time it's not a lone Bigfoot. It's with a group of other ones, and they're also nearby. If it is actually a lone Bigfoot, that's when you should get worried because there's a reason it's alone. They don't go around by themselves unless they're forced to.
That is such good advice. The last thing you want is to be raped by a Bigfoot. Let's be honest. Casey's looking for a lover. You don't want that. You do not want that. So watch out for them single ones because they're not going to charge you. They're going to take you. Make sweet love. Put on some Barry White in the middle of the forest with a fire burning on the side. Absolutely. I see that happening. Totally see that happening.
I think here in North America, a lot of those cases where it's an individual rogue Bigfoot, it's not going to take you back to its cave for some sweet, sweet loving. You're going to be dinner. So that's a good reason to avoid it. And, we do have a lot of those reports historically from the Pacific Northwest where you've got native females disappearing and being hauled away by Bigfoot, and that goes all the way up into Canada and Alaska. You get the same thing with some of the tribes down in the southern part of the lower 48. And but interestingly, there's also a couple of tribes over there that I've heard that they had very cordial relations with their local Sasquatch, and even were trading with them at one point, probably before the early epidemics started breaking out and everything. But at some point they just stopped dealing and trading with them or whatever. But up until that point, there was one designated member of the tribe that could speak their language that would do this trading mission with them.
Right.
And at that point, it was not amongst these like 2 or 3 tribes. It wasn't frowned upon for a female member of the tribe decide that she wanted to have a Bigfoot husband. That was like perfectly okay.
My friend,
So
I'm going to
we
get you to
can
hold on. I'm going to get you to hold on right there, and we're going to finish that story. So much more coming up on Spaced Out Radio in Hour 2. Bigfoot talk all night long out of the state of Montana. Duke Sullivan, height unknown, weight unknown, and he has his wrestling mask on for Bigfoot right now as we speak. Second hour of Spaced Out Radio is next. Height unknown, weight unknown. That is awesome. I'm happy with that. I am totally happy with that.
From parts unknown.
Hey, bud, I'm just going to put some commercials on here. I'm going to quickly run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing, so I'll be right back to you.
All right, buddy. Hi, Sherry Knight.
Okay.
With everything SOR, the Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
All right, I'm back. All right, we've got about 90 seconds. Do you have me on mute there? Hey, Sovereign Gas Man, how are you? Hello, I saw someone new in here that hasn't been here before. Amanda, how are you? So if you're new, once again, just want to let you all know that we are on terrestrial radio as well, which is why we go to commercial break. I understand that some of you may not like that or wondering, what the hell is a podcast doing this? It's because we're on the radio, real radio. So that's why we are doing it. That's why we're doing it. All right. Hey, Duke, where are you? Question. What's your thoughts on eating breakfast for dinner?
I never eat breakfast.
Yes.
I'm on Bigfoot hours. I wake up in the afternoon, and by then breakfast isn't an option.
Good for you. Good for you. Never a need to eat breakfast, especially for dinner. Never. Jean-Paul, bonjour. Amanda, otherwise Nate, I don't know what the hell, that seems a little weird. JCL, welcome to our show for the first time. Thank you. Nucker, good to see you. George Miller. Breakfast is good, but breakfast foods need to be eaten at breakfast, not for dinner. That's why they're considered breakfast foods, except bacon. Bacon is universal. Hey, you can pick up your Bigfoot shirts by going to facebook.com/spacedoutradio. We have all sides. It is Canadian funds, not American, so you can check it out there. Super Chat, thank you to everyone who has donated so far. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Second hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Quadragenarian. Quadragenarian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Bigfoot chatter all night long from World Bigfoot Radio and Montana with the Montana Bigfoot Project. We have Duke Sullivan. We're having one fun interview tonight talking about the big hairy beast that seems to roam around the forests of North America. Duke, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back again. Hey, let's digress for a quick second to your favorite question about breakfast food.
Oh, come on.
Breakfast was a good idea 100 years ago when we had agrarian people, and they needed to be out in the field 16 hours a day, and they got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and horked down a big, fat, greasy meal with zillion calories in it because they were going to work it off by the time they came back for lunch. Well, that's not the case anymore. And the whole trend of, breakfast is the most important meal of the day was started by the cereal industry because they want to sell breakfast cereal. They want to keep selling pork links and stuff like that. So that's the whole breakfast thing. If you're not, actually physically working your butt off, you don't need breakfast. It's just going to make you fat. And I never eat breakfast, and I'm not fat. And I'm very sedentary and almost 60. So there's your evidence. Let's go back to Bigfoot.
Well, I'm fat, though. I'm shrinking in my chair as you say this because you're making me feel guilty. You jerk.
Yeah, it's all
jerk.
about how many calories you're burning and how many you need to take in, basically. You just, don't eat junk food and eat 1 or 2 meals a day and you won't get fat. Sorry, Dave, it's really simple. Trust me, I'm lazy as hell and I'm still not fat.
All right. Well, let's continue on rather than talking about Dave's non-dietary fiber. All right.
Sorry, Dave.
I got a question from Corrance, my booking guy, and it kind of goes along like this because, back in the, let's go back almost 100 years ago, we heard a lot of stories, even up to today, where First Nations people and elders will tell their young ladies, do not go out after the evening or once the sun sets because there is a chance that you could become a Sasquatch wife. And that is a very famous legend that goes around pretty much every First Nations that has to deal with this creature. However, we never seem to hear the other side. And this leads to Corrance's question. Do we have any, amorous female Sasquatch who are chasing down men in the forest because maybe they don't have a partner?
That rarely gets talked about in North America, but I'm glad you brought it up because this came up with one of the guests that I had on my show who's also in close contact with Dr. Igor Burtsev, and until recently when he died, Dmitry Bayanov over in Russia, and gets all the reports and information from them. And they've got a repeating pattern of it over there, a really bad one apparently, of female Sasquatch grabbing guys and hauling them off. So much to the point that the Russian Orthodox Church actually has an incantation that you're supposed to recite if you're out in the woods and a wild woman tries to grab you and spirit you away, that will supposedly protect you from her amorous advances. So I'm really glad I'm not doing research over there. That's all I can say.
Oh, my goodness. That just sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Sounds completely dangerous.
Well, you got to figure if it's coming up enough to the point that the local church is giving you an incantation or prayer to say against this happening, there's got to be a few problems with this going on for them to come up with something for it.
Well, you know what? It is something that you have to worry about. It, and with some of these missing hunters that go missing, you have to wonder, were they taken as Sasquatch husbands?
Mm-hmm. Or were they just, somebody's meal? The other thing is that, people need to get themselves in the mindset of realizing that there's more out there than just Bigfoot. Yeah, there's Bigfoot out there, and just about any place you can imagine them being potentially able to live. And some places where you find it hard to imagine them being able to live, they're there. But there's other cryptids out there, and some of the other cryptids apparently a lot more dangerous than Bigfoot, and a lot more likely to make people disappear. So I'm not on the page that's Diamond Dave Polites missing 411. Everybody that disappeared was taken by Bigfoot, and BS. There's other cryptids out there that we know a lot about, and they're way more dangerous than Bigfoot and way more likely to make people disappear. There's more Bigfoot probably than there are of the other types of cryptids, but that doesn't mean that they're doing it.
Okay. What about Dogman?
Dogman would definitely, if you got, in a Dogman's way and he was in a pissy mood, you'd go bye-bye. I think Dogman's aggressiveness is over-exaggerated to a large extent, but there's more than one kind of Dogman that people are dealing with. And, even people that are like really well researched on the whole subject have trouble telling which is which. So for Dogman, your rule of thumb is get away from it. Don't run because it triggers chase response, and don't threaten it or shoot at it.
A lot of these creatures seem to be able to talk telepathically to people. I have interviewed a number of people and researchers who have interviewed people who have had close encounters with both Dogman and Sasquatch, where they said they have raised a rifle to this creature out of safety, and they get a telepathic message that basically says, I wouldn't pull the trigger if I were you because it's going to be really, really bad for you. Do you buy into this telepathy?
Absolutely. I have several friends that are in communication with them pretty much constantly. They've got them that live right on their property. And in a couple of cases, it's not only telepathy, it's, they're physically talking to them. At least one of the local Bigfoot knows English well enough that they can sit out in the tree line in the shadows just far enough back that you can barely make them out. And you can go out there and talk to them, and they'll answer you, which is extremely unnerving. I'm not sure I even want to do that, but there's people that are doing it. They're used to them. They've been around them for years. The same ones have been following them around for years or decades. So it's just like, the weird neighbors that live in the woods sort of thing. But as far as the telepathy and or mind speak, as they technically call it in the Bigfoot community, and why did they have to come up with another name for telepathy? Well, because it isn't just telepathy. It also includes telepathy and telepictures, if you want to put it that way. They can not only send you a thought, not necessarily in a sentence form, but they can send you a picture of something that they want you to see, or they can just send you a feeling, which, for people that aren't like extremely psychic is just nothing but confusing. They don't know where it's coming from or what's going on. And the other thing is that it seems like people that are non-psychic or anything, if they try and mind speak with you, it usually has unfortunate results, like you just get a pounding migraine and you don't understand what's going on and it doesn't work. I know somebody over in Nova Scotia that's in communication with the clan that he does research on, and the alpha male tried to mind speak to him several times and it doesn't work. He just gets instant splitting headache, feels like he's going to die. And then finally, one of the younger females in the group contacted him. She can actually talk to him without making his head want to explode. So he does all of his chatting back and forth with them via her. But yeah, I know several people that are in this. I know it sounds bizarre, but yeah, they actually talk to some people. They can mind speak with you. It seems to be mostly the people that are like natural psychics that have had abilities since they were kids seem to be able to do that with them. But they can physically talk to you too. There's a good amount of them that have a good understanding in English because they listen to us speaking it all the time, and after a while they figure out what some of the words mean. So they understand. If you're out in the woods and you think there might be a Bigfoot there, hey, try talking to them. Chances are good they understand English.
When we were tracked down in October of 2018, 3 of us, and we heard what Ronald Moorhead describes as the samurai chatter.
Yep.
That was incredible. That was, if I would have recognized, and it's funny because I had heard the Sierra Sounds, a couple years previous, and when we heard this talking in the middle of the forest where we were, and it was eerie, and I wish at that point that I would have recognized what I was hearing because we would have tried for communication. But we got pushed out of that area by a minimum of 2 of them. We knew there were 2 there. And it was phenomenal. The eerie feeling that fell upon all 3 of us was like, we need to exit. We need to go. Whatever is there, let's just leave it be. And now looking back on it, I'm like, damn it. Like, I want this to happen again. I totally want it to happen again. But I think they're getting used to us in that area until we brought the trail cam up. When we brought
they don't like cameras, so that's kind of a no-no. Then you start breaking their trust when you have cameras flashing in their direction. We tried an experiment with them this summer where we put a teeny sound recorder in the can holder on a folding camp chair and left that going when we went to bed. And about an hour after we went to sleep, you can hear for about 45 minutes as somebody's walking around camp. They're picking up things, moving stuff around on the table, shuffling around. They reach over and tap the top of the recorder with their finger. Like, they know what the hell we're up to. Yeah, we're not fooling them. We're not fooling them. That's why, you have such a low success rate with researchers that are going, well, they're just, dumb apes wandering around the woods. I'll just be a little smarter than I need with a deer, and I'll get pictures of them. And no, that doesn't usually work because they're just as smart as we are, and they can figure out what you're up to.
Before I get to Cat Chaser's question, I want to ask you about this. Are they that smart, or do they have some sort of supernatural ability that allows them to be able to pick up on things that are electronic or something else?
I think they can sense electronic stuff. I'm almost sure of it. And the other thing is they seem to be able to short circuit it. I don't know if they can issue an EMP, which is like everybody's going like, how the hell could they do that? Well, don't forget, we got a really simple critter called an electric eel that can electrocute you if you jump in the water with it. It can zap you with lightning, okay? So Bigfoot generating an EMP, not outside the realm of possibility. We don't know that much about them. I do know somebody that got a video of one sitting in a tree line, stuck its tongue out at her, and then zapped her camera. And there's a physical flash on the video. You can see a physical flash. So that's not infrasound. That's some sort of electromagnetic disturbance because it's making a physical representation of a light flash on the camera. And yeah, it drained the batteries and slayed it was a cell phone, slayed it like within a couple minutes of that it was done.
Well, when we put up our trail cam at our gifting site, what amazed me about it was that for 7.5 days, we didn't get anything. Nothing. There was no photos of birds. There was no photos of chipmunks, squirrels, deer, porcupines, cats like bobcats, lynx, cougars, moose, wild horses, cattle. Nothing. We got nothing out of it. And that is just what absolutely amazed me. 7.5 days. And we were starting to get action. And who knows? We haven't been up there since the snow fell. And we're going to try and get up there again and check it out because, let's face it, snow is a perfect time to try and find some prints.
Mm-hmm.
But it is amazing to me that we aren't able to totally control that environment and that they are that smart to do it. Let's get to some audience questions here. Sovereign is asking, why do cryptids freeze as soon as human eyes are laid on them?
Well, the general rule of cryptids, humans aren't supposed to see them. If they freeze up and don't move, then we don't see them. I think they've all observed us enough to know that, like the T-Rex on Jurassic Park, they react to movement. And we do that. I've done that to other people, even on my research team, just stand still in one place. And they walk right past. Doesn't matter what color clothes you got on. They don't see if you don't move. So, yeah, their first reaction, if they think you've seen them, is to freeze up and not move, and then see if you take your gaze away.
Adrianos is asking about whether or not you've seen or heard reports of Sasquatch eating human food, like hamburgers from a campfire barbecue.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there's somebody in a fairly famous music family down in the South, and you country music people would know who it was immediately were I to tell you, which I can't. But they've apparently had a clan of Bigfoot, Sasquatch on their property that they have been feeding burgers to every day for decades. And it's like a family tradition. Somebody has to go every day at midday and get a whole pile of burgers and bring them out to the local Bigfoot and feed them so they don't get antsy because they want their burgers every day. And for whatever reason, it's McDonald's burgers. So, poor things. But yeah, they will definitely do that on occasion. I think in general they stay away from human food because they're not sure what it is. And, some of them probably have, believe it or not, manners. And like if you didn't invite them to eat the food, they're not going to touch it.
All right, let's move on. Cat Chaser is asking, why do Bigfoot smell so bad at times?
And that one we pretty much have the answer for at this point. And it's a reaction like if you're running around too much, of course, you get overheated, you start sweating. Humans, when they're stressed out, that's why we have, armpit deodorant, because also, your armpits will emit sweat and little bacteria that eat it stink, and it makes you stinky. And what's going on with them, if they think it's something really similar, it's their armpit stank or some other gland that they have in a nearby region. And when they get excited or scared or something, they just naturally start stinking. It's like a skunk thing. Make big stink, make thing go away.
True.
I've only ever smelled one smell bad once out of all the times I've been around them. The rest of the time, they just don't even have any smell. Or if you're really close to them, they smell kind of like a wet dog crossed with an electrical fire, basically.
Let's get over to Solar Warden's question. What's your opinion on David Paulides, and if you've spoken to him? If you have, What do you think of David's work?
I think he's doing a useful job in as far as pointing out that there's people going missing and nobody really has a clear answer of where they're going. I had interaction with Dave early on where I sent him reports of a couple missing people here, and he just poo-pooed them and ignored them. I think probably because there was actual investigations going on from the police, not from forestry. So he said there was nothing to it. But then I also had contacted Kelly Shaw from Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization.
Good guy.
And very, very good guy. Kelly's my hero. He did the 800-mile drive up here and actually interviewed one of the families of one of the missing people. And what they told him was exactly the opposite of what the police said in their newspaper report. So, and there's a lot of other suspicious stuff to go with it. So, I think Dave's good at picking on forestry, but he doesn't have the balls to go after the police department when they're covering this stuff up, and that's my opinion.
Oh, well, that's pretty frank. Very frank. Okay.
Personal experience. He tried to throw me under the wheels of the bus. Kelly Shaw came up here and proved he was wrong, period.
I can understand that. All right, let's move on. Sovereign is asking, I have seen that physical flash you're talking about. Are there more functions to those flashes?
Boy, that's a good question. I wish we knew. One thing we know that they can do is they can drain the battery charge on things like really easy, which is why a lot of times you have these weird malfunctions of, all of a sudden the camera just quits working. Blaine Tyler that I mentioned earlier had that happen where he was trying to just film a background shot of him standing there narrating, and his camera kept turning itself off like 3 or 4 times. And there's like no explanation for that. Like, well, what's going on? Or other people will go out to like recharge game cams, put new batteries and stuff in them. Well, the battery's dead. Or when they get to their research area, they put in batteries in their camera or whatever, and all of a sudden find out that the brand new batteries they just put in are dead. Well, they just bought them. They're brand new batteries. How are they dead? And one person was telling me this over and over again, and I said, well, look, make a Faraday cage. Just get some copper screen, make a little bag, put all your batteries in that, keep them there in your backpack until you get to where you're going, and then put them in. Well, sure enough, when he got where he was going, they worked great until the Bigfoot got nearby, and then they all died again. They've had other people with EM meters using them in their Bigfoot research areas, and they do seem to react, not all the time, but some of the times, especially if they're doing their paranormal weird cloaking stuff or something like that, it seems like they'll pick it up. So there's definitely, from my standpoint, some pretty decent evidence that they have some sort of electromagnetic abilities, and this might have something to do with their ability to cloak above and beyond the hollow hair that they have that tends to blend in with whatever color it's next to, that they may be able to put some sort of I don't know what you say, electromagnetic charge through their hair at the same time. They can all just like bend light, basically. A good example of that would be a researcher from Alaska that was down here in June visiting with me, and we went up to a local ghost town that we know there's Bigfoot around there. And she got a very interesting picture of a cloak thing standing like practically right behind her, trying to reach out and touch her, it looked like. But you can see it's bending light around it. There's another fairly obvious Bigfoot head in the background peeking around a tree. But in the foreground is you can see everything in the picture is distorting and bending. You can't actually see anything there, but all the light is bending around something. So, yeah, and I've seen enough researchers I know have actually experienced this firsthand too, where it's like, why is there that weird distortion over there? And you can pick this out in pictures too. If you look at a picture and everything in the picture is in focus, but there's one little piece of it that isn't in focus, there's something there cloaking.
Well, let's get into cloaking, because I do have a question coming up from Richard, the Deer Whisperer. We call him the Deer Whisperer because he's absolutely petrified of deer, and we think it's funny. But we've only got just over a minute left before we got to go to break, and I want to get into cloaking, because if we're talking real cloaking, like pixelation or something along those lines, that leads to something supernatural about this creature. Or are we talking just the greatest camouflage ever? What do you think?
I think that's a long answer, and we're going to have to save it until after the break. The short version of it is that they all have one ability. They can mind speak. Some of them have other abilities in addition. And apparently it depends on what they were taught from the time they were little squatchlets by their family. Whatever they, it's just like any other thing. If you're, okay, let's take all the humans on Earth. You have to go down to Earth, and your mission is to find one human that represents all humans on Earth.
Right.
How are you going to do that? They're all
Gotcha.
different. You got some humans that go up into space and hang out in the orbital, International Space Station. You got other ones that are riding around with a horse and buggy. Which one is the representative human?
Right.
Well, it's the same thing with them. Some of their little family groups have, however they've acquired them, they have other neat abilities they figured out, and they only seem to teach it to the other members.
Let's keep it right there for now, because we do have to go to break. We continue our Sasquatch talk with Montana investigator Duke Sullivan right after this. Sorry about that, bro.
No problem, Dave. We doing okay?
We're doing fantastic. This is great. We topped out at 191, and we've dropped down to 175.
Yeah, it's too bad you're on so late, because we would have had another 100 from the East Coast.
Well, they're going to have to catch the replay.
Oh, they will. Believe me, they will. There's a bunch of them that wanted to be here for it, and then they went, what time is it on? They're like, oh, God, I got to work tomorrow. If it was on Friday, I'd stay up for it.
Well, we'll book you next time for a Friday.
Yeah, book me on a Friday, and we'll break your all-time chat room record.
Let's do it. I'm
trying to do it this time with everything against me, stacked against me. I'm trying to do it.
Let's go here. Oh, this is fun, man. I'm appreciating this. This is good conversation tonight.
Yeah, it's my job. People aren't going to learn the information if you're not entertaining at the same time.
Hi, Christy, Sci-Fi Gal. Welcome.
Christy!
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. She says she's okay. She's very sore. Did you slip on the ice?
Christy was in 2 car accidents today.
Oh, my
2.
God. You unfortunate girl. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for that.
She got hit twice, once in her company car and once in her own vehicle.
Son of a... That's a bad day. That's a bad day.
Yeah, no kidding. See, we weren't the only ones, Dave.
Oh, my goodness. I went and had a shower and meditated before the show. That's what I did. We've got about 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Alrighty. So let me go run to the preview real quick, and I'll be right back.
You go.
Thanks, brother.
Christy, would you like us to break into song for you to make you feel better? We'll break into song for you. I know you're new here, but we'll break into song. And while we're waiting for that, I just want to remind everyone that if you are new to this channel, we do go to commercial break at the top and bottom of every hour because we are live on the radio as well, and we have to be able to time things out. So I do apologize for the little bit of inconvenience. And if you're brand new and you like what you're hearing so far, we are here Monday through Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. And what we like to do is we'd like to invite all of you to come on in once again, hang on out, hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you know when we're coming on. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're just like 300 and change away. 300 and change. And hi, Lexi, how you doing? And, you know, that's something that that we're really striving for. That's my goal, and I set that goal back in August, and damn it, we're almost there. We're almost there. So with your help, we can hit that. You can do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. All you got to do is go to facebook.com/spaced out. No, that's wrong. That's our page. / the SOR Vault. And Ron, why the need to start so late? Because this is when our radio stations want to put us on. So, anyways, you can do a little shopping. We got some great swag there, including a really beautiful Bigfoot shirt. And, that's pretty much it. That's all I got. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. My personal handles on Twitter at Dave Scott SOR, and same as on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR as well. And yes, for those of you who are new, it is me typing in the chat room under Spaced Out Radio. So that's kind of what we do. I'm kind of busy all over the place. I've got like 4 screens going here. 4 screens.
Excuse me.
No problem. No problem. No problem. All right, we got 20 seconds.
Cloaky.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. I am a one-man band. I have no producer in here. Corin's the booking guy, does all the guests. Spookles the cat does our social media. Gail does the news and gets it ready for me. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with our guest, Duke Sullivan. He runs the Montana Bigfoot Project. He's got a radio program called World Bigfoot Radio. This man is on the ball when it comes to everything Sasquatch. Duke, welcome back.
Hey, everybody. And I just want to say a special shout-out to Bama BF, who just jumped into the chat room here. Bama, you missed it. We were talking about your video where you got the flash of the Bigfoot zapping your camera earlier on.
I don't know if that was that or moonshine. I don't know.
Yeah, during the day, so pretty obviously something going on there.
Yeah, definitely moonshine then. Definitely moonshine. I tease.
It was swamp gas.
Hey, right before the break, we were starting to talk about cloaking. Whether or not Sasquatch has the ability to cloak in some sort of supernatural fashion, or it's just perfected natural camouflage.
Yeah, good question. Again, anything that we talk about with cloaking is speculative because, outside of government labs, nobody has one to do experiments on. And if you actually know one that you can talk to and you can ask them, here's what's going to happen. What, are you saying you did this, Duke? Yes, I did this. I know somebody that has one they can talk to. And I said, next time you talk to them, ask them how they cloak. And about 3 days later, they got back to me and said, I got an answer to your question. You're not going to like it. And I'm like, okay, what's the answer? Well, the answer is we bend light. Yeah, that's about what I expected. They're not going to tell you their trade secrets. They bend light. And we can figure that out from the picture we got of one standing there bending light. Thanks. Thanks for all the help, guys. We don't know how the heck they do it. They've got some kind of trick they can do, and there's enough senior researchers that have seen them do it or even have pictures of areas with cloaking fields going on. And, they don't have to be 100% invisible. They can be partially, too, which is really disconcerting. I know somebody that saw one walking across their yard partially cloaked, and all they could see was like the torso. So there's this torso, this furry torso floating across their yard. Very disconcerting. But yeah, we don't know how they do their little trick, but at least some of them can do it. And I started getting into this before the break, that it seems like they're getting their training from their elders. And, it's probably family related or clan troop, whatever you want to call it. They're getting their training from whoever else is the senior members that are around them. And some of them don't know how to do these other tricks, and other ones of them know how to do all kinds of tricks. It just depends on what they were taught to do. And you can look at it this like the old martial arts schools in China. If you weren't a member of the martial arts school, you weren't getting taught that skill. And it's the same kind of thing, from what I can figure out anyway, because some of them don't seem to have any abilities outside of being able to mentally communicate, which they all apparently can do. But other than that, it's like a group-by-group basis. Some of them have all kinds of weird abilities that they exhibit, and other ones just virtually nothing. And then that makes things confusing, because some of the other cryptids that are out in the woods, they have weird abilities too. So you start getting to the point with, when you're seeing some of this stuff going on, you're not sure who's actually involved in it. Unless you're finding Bigfoot tracks there after the fact, you don't know what was doing it. Because there's other beings that have these abilities, and demons that live in the woods, and the jinn, and shapeshifters, and all kinds of weird stuff that potentially is out there.
Do you believe that they have the ability to access portals or different dimensions?
Portals, yeah, that seems to be pretty certain. I know several people that have active portals, and there always seems to be Bigfoot near them most of the time. And whether they're guarding the portals or they're using them and going through them. One person that I had on my show said that one of the reasons that you get the others around them, or orbs and stuff like that, is because they're actually large enough to open a portal and go through it themselves, and these other things on the other side can't get through it. So they tend to congregate around these portals and wait for a Bigfoot to open it up, and then when the Bigfoot goes through, they jump through, take advantage of it.
Let's move on to Deer Hunter's question here, or the Deer Whisperer's question. He says, I believe in the Bigfoot, but just saying, wouldn't we have found something? I mean, we find mummies all the time in deep tombs, but we can't find Sasquatch. And why haven't they been caught up in a bear trap or anything? Or are they outsmarting us?
Every time we get evidence of one, and there's been several of them that have been shot by people, the government hauls the corpses away. I refer you back to the Great Smithsonian cover-up of all the giants that's been going on for over 100 years. People keep finding giant bones. They keep taking them away to the Smithsonian for further study, and then they lose track of them and they're never seen again. It's suppression, plain and simple. Bigfoot don't frickin' leave bodies lying around on the forest floor for you to find, first of all. If a rogue one manages to die by itself or there's nobody to bury it or otherwise get rid of the body, the predators in the area are going to take care of it. And they've done experiments on that where they stake down a deer to the ground with wire so it couldn't be extracted and hauled away, and the animals would have to dissect it to haul pieces of it away, and then kept a time-lapse camera on it to see how long it lasted. And they were guessing, about a month or so. Well, within a week it was gone. So, yeah, that's why. How often does somebody find a dead bear's remains and the bear died of natural causes? There's bears everywhere. And they're dumb and they don't bury their fallen comrades.
So do you think they're living underground, or do you think they are living in caves? Where do you think these creatures are living?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of evidence that points that direction. As a matter of fact, if you're at the Vatican and you look up, you see Michelangelo has a big painting on the ceiling there. And if you look down in the corner of it, you're going to notice that there's a cave there. And the cave has two chambers in it. One of them is filled with fire and flaming centers, and the other one has a male and a female Bigfoot in it. So, yeah, at least that far back, there's been the legend that Bigfoot live underground and in caves. And, that's common here in North America, too. It's common all over Asia, Europe, everywhere that there's sightings of wild man for centuries. That was one of the things that they called them earlier on was troglodytes. They live underground. So, yeah, and, some of them have, that's where you get into the eye shine, eye glow thing, because like a lot of animals, if you shine a light on them at night, you'll get a reflection back. You've got eye shine from them. And if you hit the eye from different directions with the same light, the eye shine will, with some animals, actually change color, which is the case with Bigfoot too. But even beyond that, some of them seem to have an ability of eye glow, like as if their eye is luminescent and it's actually putting out light. And, we've got pictures of this. So this is like, this isn't eye shine. There's no other light source around there. There's no moon in the sky. There's nothing. But there's these glowing eyes walking around in the woods. Okay. So how are they doing that? Well, you know what? If you're living underground part of the time, it'd be really handy to have little headlights. You don't have to see very far in a cave to avoid falling into a pit or something. You can get around pretty good otherwise. And had one of the best guests I ever had on my show, Kevin Lang, who was actually friends with the Bigfoot when he was a kid for about 5 years. And he talks about when they went into a cave one time. And his friend Glag led the way. Kevin couldn't see anything. And Glag just went, into the cave as far as he felt like. Kevin went, I can't see anything. Let's go back. And then they turned around and came back again. But apparently he didn't need any light source whatsoever. And he could see in that completely unlit underground.
Weird. Almost like luminescent,
well,
like bioluminescence on the walls.
Yeah, but this is like, Glag wasn't showing any eye glow or anything. Kevin was right there with him. You didn't see his eyes glowing. So regardless of that, apparently they can see in lightless places. How are they doing this? I don't know. Some people think they can see further into the infrared spectrum, so they can sort of, heat vision, limited heat vision, which seems really likely because most of the game cams that they avoid, electromagnetic spectrums, they're using infrared, which most animals can't see, to use as the trigger to trip the camera, so it takes a picture of the animal. Well, yeah, they seem to be able to see the infrared beam, so they avoid the cameras like like nobody's business. William Lunsford down there in Texarkana, he gets pictures of them occasionally, but as often as not, they just avoid the camera or they mess with it. He's got a really great picture of one of them's finger where it picked the camera up and threw it. And he's got another picture of one's mouth where it tried to eat the camera. But he's got a few, but usually it's camera traps where he set up multiple cameras and they're avoiding one or two of them, and the third one gets them. And even then, it's like rare that he gets anything on them.
Very weird. Very weird. Let's go to Lexi's question. She says, according to Native Americans, many of them had friendly relationships with Bigfoot. Did Bigfoot become more underground when Europeans came to North America?
I did a show on that with Rich Soul from the Knox Giga study, who's also a member of International Hominology of Forest People. And he was talking about the contagion theory where it seems like the reports of the natives having a lot of interactions and trading with Bigfoot came to a dead halt right about the time that the European colonizers showed up here and spread pandemics all over the place. And the natives were dying in droves, and it may have been just the sight of all these people keeling over made the Sasquatch think that maybe interacting with these guys isn't a good idea right now. And then, who knows, maybe a bunch of the people that were actually the one guy in the tribe that knew their language and could trade with them were the ones that died from this, so there was just nobody to pick it up and continue on from there. But it does seem like there was a lot more interaction between the Sasquatch on the continent and the natives before the white man showed up. And after that, it's dropped off a lot. But that's not to say that it's completely over with. There are some native tribes that still have, cordial relations with the Sasquatch that are in their area.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more positively here. How do we attract a Sasquatch into an area? Can we? Or how do we find that area where Sasquatch is?
Well, back when I was just a little duke and I was at the Shaolin Temple of Squatching, Master Po told me that you cannot find Bigfoot grasshopper. You must make Bigfoot find you. So, no, you can't find Bigfoot. Don't waste your time. What you can do is you can find an area where they're likely to be, whether you got that from sightings or, you've been there personally looking around and found evidence, or you're looking at a topographic map going, oh, here's where three rivers come together and there's a big wetland and there's no roads and humans don't go there. Oh, there's a good spot to go check. But, basically I think there's a lot of different methodology. And some people, I'm going to sneak up on them and get their picture, and I'm going to trick them and get their picture, and yeah, they usually don't have any success. And then there's the ones that habituate with food, which I think is a really bad idea. because they want the food all the time. Then if you're not giving them the food, why aren't you giving me my food? And crabby Sasquatch is something you don't want to be around. There's other ones that try and trick them. Bigfoot outlaws are good at that. There's at least 2 members of the group that can do flawless Bigfoot calls and know what they mean. So they can trick juveniles into coming right into camp. Occasionally they can get an adult really whizzed off to come right into camp. And that's why they park with their vehicles facing outward, because the likely result is they're going to have to jump in their vehicle and bail out of there as fast as they can with angry Sasquatch on them. My methodology is to find an area that they're in, go there, recon it, see if they actually are around that area, if they're hanging around there. And if they are hanging around there, just habituate the presence. Go there and be non-threatening. Don't feed them, don't give them anything, but just be non-threatening. And if I've got the skill set where I can actually find trails, and I can find their structures, and I can find their tracks. And after you're there once or twice doing that, as soon as you show up, they're on you because they know they're there, and you're looking for them. You're looking for their evidence. So they're going to follow you around. The minute you pull up, there's going to be a sentinel watching you, and there might be more than one following you around too, which is kind of why it's good to scan around randomly with your camera and just take pictures over your shoulder every so often, because you'd be surprised on what kind of things you find in those pictures. But, it's been 4 or 5 years now we've been going up to my favorite research area, and just this summer they finally started coming into camp after dark. Up until this year they weren't even doing that, so it took 4 years of habituation to presence to get them to even be trusting enough to come into camp after we're in the tents sleeping, supposedly.
Right.
Sometimes they wake us up and they do it on purpose, so that's a little bit disconcerting.
Do you find them to be more active during nocturnal times, or do you find them active at all times of the day? Because I know with our area, that's the tough one that we're trying to figure out.
In areas with less human presence, they're active all times of the day and night. In areas with a higher human presence, they tend to be mostly nocturnal, because they don't want to get spotted, and it's just easier to operate when humans aren't around. And unlike us, they can see perfectly in the dark, so it doesn't matter what time of day or night they're out. For them, in areas where there's a higher human presence, most of them tend to be nocturnal. If you're way out in the sticks somewhere, they're wandering around during the day.
Okay, so if I'm out in the forest during the day, and I'm saying this for a lot of people who will listen to this and may want to try and have a sighting on their own. If I'm out in the forest, say on a logging road, 20, 30 kilometers from town, or 20, 30 miles, wherever you are, doesn't matter, we can translate it. What do I need to do in order to potentially give myself the best advantage of having a sighting?
Well, first thing you need to do is try and find an area where you know that they're around there. And that means going to areas and reconning them and walking around. And, I don't usually follow up on Bigfoot sightings. I'm not a person that goes, hey, so-and-so had a sighting over here, I should go check it out. I never do that. I look at a map and go, they're more likely here. And then I go there and I recon the area. And if I find evidence of them, structures, tracks, blah, 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 then I go back there a bunch of times. And as soon as you're there looking at that stuff and you know how to find it, they're going to be on you. They'll be following you around all the time. And they do have sentinels around during the day.
Yes.
I would almost guarantee that there's at least one member of the clan that's awake during the day, keeping an eye on stuff so the rest of them can sleep safely. And, if anybody gets too close, then you get the wood knock or the rock clack or the whistle, and everybody else wakes up and goes, oh, there's humans coming.
No, I understand that. I've never heard wood knocking. I've never heard the hooting and hollering, except once. That's when it happened, literally less than 100 yards from me. All right? And I know that, I want to hear that, man. I want to hear that wood knocking. I want to hear that. I want to go deep into the forest. But, for a lot of people, though, the forest is intimidating. And I realize that, if this creature is what it is, it probably tries to bypass logging roads or logging trails that have maybe grown over a little bit. Okay, but a lot of people...
Even old ones that are almost unused, you'd be surprised how much they avoid them.
Exactly.
We got one right across from our campsite that They just forestry went through it this summer and cut down all the deadfall across the trail because the only reason it's there is for fire access. So since it had been nicely cleared by them, we walked all the way up to the end of it. And of course, as I expected, we found not one trail or, not one print, nothing, no marking that a Bigfoot had been on it. But as soon as you walk like 100 feet off of it, oh, look, there's a tree structure. You walk over there, oh, there's a track. They don't follow trails. They're quite aware of that humans make trails and roads and stuff. And if they walk around on one, they're going to leave tracks, and a human might come by and find them, and that's a no-no. So most of the time, if you can find a track near a road or trail or something, it's cutting diagonally across it. And they left it by accident in the ditch on either side or the little embankment on either side or something like that, where they have established crossings of like trails and, little roads and stuff like that. They'll leave a marker there. You'll have a snapped off branch, or you'll have a tree snap, or there'll be a little bow there or something that points to the other side of the trail. Oh, there's their trail. And if you're in let's say a slot valley or ravine or something where maybe you got like a little river and there's a path or a road on one side of it, and that's about all the room you got down in the valley. Well, if they're walking through that valley at all, they're not going to follow that human trail. Go 40 or 50 feet off of it and start walking around, and that's where you'll find their tracks.
Okay, but for a lot of people, they have an intimidation of the forest because the forest can be scary, especially if you're amateur. And I would still consider myself amateur enough, but I have good friends who I go out who are way more experienced in being out in the wilderness than I am. But one of the things I do know is that when things get really silent, from birds, chipmunks, whatever, that's a time. That's a time where you have to be on alert. There is something around. But what I'm saying though is, for most people who go out looking for this creature, are not going to take those side trails, those deer trails that may or may not lead to anywhere, because you can get lost in the forest like that. It is that simple. All right. So for those people who maybe aren't equipped to take that type of nature trail, how can they have an experience?
Well, then it's up to, you need to be on like I said, camping in an area where they're around, and just be up there a lot, and be non-aggressive. Don't have guns. Don't be acting aggressive. They're curious. They'll show up. The more you're up there, the more they'll keep showing up. Especially if you start finding evidence of them, then they're really curious and they're going to show up for sure. I hate to tell people, but if you want to really find this stuff, it isn't easy, it isn't safe, and it isn't fun. You're going to be plowing through some really nasty terrain to get to it. And the reason is that's where they put things. We find big areas with all kinds of knockdown timber. Very suspicious. What was going on here? A microburst? Why all this knockdown timber in this one area, not over here? Most humans look at that and go, impassable. I don't want to wade over logs waist high for 100 yards. I'm going to go around it. Well, guess what's out in the middle of that waist high logs knocked down for 100 yards? A giant tree structure. That's why they don't find them. And you know what's in between all those logs that got knocked down? Tracks. Because they're walking around on those logs, and occasionally they have to step on the ground in between them, and they leave a track.
So you're
saying a lot of the places that Bigfoot hang around.
Sorry, you're saying head for clear-cut areas.
No, I'm saying just the opposite. Go to the areas that no human in their right mind would want to go through. That's where the Bigfoot are hanging out.
Cool.
They know that we don't go through terrain like that. We don't like to wade across cold rivers. We don't like to slog through swamps. We don't like to walk through hundreds of yards of down timber. We won't go in there. They know that. That's why you go in there. That's when you start finding evidence. And as far as, the other thing, when we go into an area, we just do a grid search. We're going to go in between these two roads and this fire trail, and we're going to look at everything as much as we can over the amount of time that we've got. And we don't even, trails, roads, irrelevant. We're doing the Bigfoot thing, walk across country. And a good place to start is find like an old, access road or something that's got a really noticeable game trail off of it. Follow the game trail for a while. As long as you're on the same game trail, it's pretty easy to not get lost. Follow it back again. And go out there, a quarter mile or so. watch around the game trail. See if there's any weird things that look like maybe it's a blind that somebody made, like not the kind a hunter would make. Like a fallen tree with a bunch of brush piled in front of it or something. It just happens to be right next to the game trail. Well, there's a hunting spot for them. Now, if you find something like that, now start going off the trail and looking around in both sides of it. And generally, you'll find more signs of them. You might find tree snaps. You might find arches. You might find, one of their little teepee structures or something like that. The sad fact of the matter is that the more dismal and impassable the terrain is, the more likely it is that that's where they are. Because they pick places that we don't want to go into. We know one of the places in our favorite research area, there's this miserable cold river, and they're on the other side of it. We've only been able to get across it twice in the late fall when the river's low enough and it's warm enough that you can stand a way to cross it and not freeze to death afterwards. And we start finding structures and tracks all over the place on the other side of that little river because they know we don't want to go across it.
Duke, I'm going to get you to hold right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We have a half hour left with Duke Sullivan talking Montana Bigfoot Project, Sasquatch, you name it. We got the thought of the day, the SOR Newswire coming in as well at the bottom of hour number 3. We'll be back. All right, my friend, I'm just going to run my dogs out again. I'll be right back, okay?
No problem, bud.
You can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's west coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best-rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
All right, dude, I'm back.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resnick.
I turned down the wrong one. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Now I can hear you. That's what I get. Damn it. Well, let's see here. All right. We've got 2 minutes, Duke. 2 minutes. Hey, Randy, thank you. Thank you. Great guest tonight, man. Great guest. We got 1 minute.
Okay, back here. Mama BF, Lord Duke. Okay, thanks, sweetie.
You're going to have to sign autographs after this, so you might have to stick around.
She's poking fun at me because somebody else who has actually been a guest on my show owns property in Scotland, and he ceded some of it to me, which technically makes me a Scottish lord, because if you own property in Scotland, you're a Scottish lord. So that's why she's picking on me, calling me Lord Duke.
Well, there you go. 30 seconds. All right. Thank you to everybody in the Super Chats tonight. Thank you for the thumbs up. And everyone who has hit subscribe tonight. Remember, you can shop for your SOR swag by going to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. We really appreciate everybody who's getting T-shirts right now. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We want to remind you that if you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across the continent or digitally on Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, or KPNL, we appreciate you tuning us on in live. And don't forget, you can check out all of our archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Quadragenarian. Quadragenarian is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Duke Sullivan. He leads Montana's Bigfoot with the Montana Bigfoot Project, and this guy's been pretty darn good breaking down everything Sasquatch tonight. Duke, we appreciate you taking the time.
That's my job, buddy. You got to get people up to speed on what's actually been found out about this subject, and get them all. The more people we got on the same page, the faster we're going to get results. So let's get everybody up to speed.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? You have literally poured over hundreds of reports of this creature. I would love for you to share a story of one or two of those that have really stuck out for you, that just have really touched the Bigfoot strings that you have?
Well, I've heard so many. My favorite Bigfoot report, and thank God I was able to talk him into being on the show to recount all of it, was Kevin Lang, who had a 5-year friendship with a juvenile Sasquatch when he was a kid. And you guys can all find the Glag Saga on my channel and check that out. And that for my money, is the top Bigfoot story ever. People like to point to Albert Ostman, who was kidnapped by a family of Sasquatch back in the 1920s in Toba Inlet, and was kept prisoner for like 4 or 5 days until he slyly managed to trick him and escape. And everybody thought he was completely crazy. This report didn't come out until the 1950s, after the original term Bigfoot was coined by the local newspaper when they found the tracks of the logging crew. And then he came out of the woodwork and told his story, and for years everybody thought it was completely crazy. Well, now the Bigfoot researchers with more decades of information under their belts look back at his story and go, yeah, everything that he says checks out. From what we know, it all checks out. Well, at the time he said it, it was a crazy story, but it all checks out. And I can guarantee the same thing is going to happen with Kevin's story. And this guy didn't just get kidnapped by a family for, 5 days. He was best friends with one for 5 years. So really glad I could get him on the show and coax that information out of him. Some of the ones that stick with me aren't necessarily even Bigfoot sightings, but sightings of some of the other things that are running around on the continent. And one of my favorite ones that I had sent to me from a researcher up in Canada, I think he was in northern Manitoba. And he saw my show on Gugwi Wendigo Janosko and went, holy bleep, I've been passing this off as misidentifications for years. In this one area I keep getting, there's reports of these things that don't sound like Bigfoot. And now I'm realizing from this show that there is a thing that isn't like a Bigfoot that looks like this, and holy bleep again. So, I told him, send me some of your reports and stuff. And, of course, this is the Gugwi, and they're not friendly. And the report he had that was the most interesting was a guy who had a little backyard paddock for his dogs. He had a couple big, giant huskies back there, and had the concrete slab with a chain link around them to keep them enclosed and everything. Something was back there messing with their enclosure, and he could hear them barking. He came out at night. Couldn't see clearly what it was. It looked like the bear standing up on its hind legs, really big, so he took a shot at it, and it roared and took off. And, he was kind of a little concerned by that. Why was this thing trying to get into the pen of these two huge dogs? That didn't make much sense. Well, apparently the next night it came back to repeat the performance, only this time, by the time he realized the dogs were going crazy, he started hearing metal ripping and whatnot, and he got out the door, and the thing had already ripped through the enclosure, had one of the dogs dead under its arm, and was trying to grab the second one, at which point he claims he put 2 or 3 shots into it, and again roared and ran off into the woods. Well, now he had had enough. He wasn't sure what he was dealing with, but he was pretty sure it wasn't a bear. It took off on its hind legs. So he got a couple of his buddies to show up early in the morning, and they had their high-powered hunting rifles, and they followed this thing. They found its trail, and they followed it about a half a mile back into the woods, and then the trail just kind of disappeared. And they looked around for a couple more hours to try and find signs of it or anything, couldn't find anything, and kind of gave up. Now, when they got back to his house, the dog that had disappeared, well, part of it had returned. The dog's head was laying on his front porch.
Wow.
So to me, that was a clear, don't shoot at me. Here's what's left of your dog. You come mess with me, you're next. You're out there in the woods looking for me. I'm right here leaving your dog's head for you.
Well, that's one way to really send a message, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like the mafia version where they have the horse head in the bed with you. This is sort of along the same lines.
Have you had any stories of encounters with people where Sasquatch has proven helpful, maybe scaring off bears or cougars or like we hear that story out of North Carolina where that young boy a couple years ago went missing and said the big teddy bear was taking care of him?
Yeah, which is easier to believe in, magical angel bears or Bigfoot? There's your choices. No, the fact of the matter is I've heard lots and lots of reports like that. Most of them don't get repeated because, people are like, oh, they'll think I'm crazy if they say Bigfoot saved me. And then, of course, the other thing is it's not good clickbait. Good clickbait stories are Bigfoot ate my Winnebago, not Bigfoot saved me from a forest fire. And that doesn't get the clickbait. So that's part of the reason you don't hear a lot about those stories. But, yeah, there's definitely a lot of them out there. As a matter of fact, I referenced Kevin Lang and Glag earlier. There's at least 2 people that have also encountered that same Bigfoot, and both of them had their lives saved by him. One person of the 2 I actually know. The other one, I'm not sure we'll ever be able to find and contact. He got sort of indirectly aware of this because the guy was talking about what had happened to him with this situation, and it was in the same general area that Glag had been roaming around in. And Kevin just sort of figured it was probably him. And this is an interesting story, too, where apparently there's a forest fire going on. And one of the forest rangers was up in this big clearing and was getting ready to get the hell out of there because the fire was coming too fast. And as he was in the process of doing that, there was so much smoke blowing, basically, it overcame him. And he passed out in his truck. And then when he woke up, he wasn't in his truck. He was laying in the woods somewhere. And he got up and, he heard noise of people talking. He started walking in that direction, came out of the wood line, and there was a blockade with a couple of forestry trucks and some forestry guys there. And they said, hey, where'd you come from? And he's like, I don't know. The last I remember, I was in my truck, and the smoke was coming in, and I passed out, I think. And where am I at? Well, you're at blah, 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 and we set up a blockade here so people can't get up the mountain where the fire is. Well, that's where my truck is, further up the mountain. I left it in a clearing up there, I think. That's the last thing I remember. Okay, so they gave him a ride up there to recover his truck. Well, by then the fire had gone through. Luckily, his truck was in this clearing with just nothing but low grass in it, so it didn't do very much damage to the truck. You could see where it burned around it. But the truck was nice and intact, except for the fact that the roof had been peeled open like a sardine can. Something that couldn't either open the door, maybe its fingers were too big or didn't know how, and they just peeled the roof open like a sardine can and apparently lifted him out and hauled him away.
Unbelievable. So when people are having those close encounters, and I think of one that a researcher out of Colorado, Mike Johnson, had stated here, where one of his research buddies that he goes out with every weekend, and they have their certain secret spots up in the Rockies. And one week, his partner lost his favorite hat. And they go back there the following weekend. They drive down the trail just to make sure there's no campers around to contaminate any potential evidence. They come back up the trail, and they notice the partner's red hat is now lying right in the middle of the road. Have you had any encounters or any reports of people who have lost things and gone back days later, weeks later, only to have it found right where they were?
Absolutely, probably a couple dozen at this point. That's like getting to be fairly routine where, somebody's out in the woods and they lose something. And next time they come out there, hey, I didn't lose this. How could I possibly lost it here? It's right on the trail. Or, we just walked down here and now we're coming back and how to get here. Yeah, again, they're observing you when you're out there. And if they know that, something of yours, and they don't like garbage either, so it's your garbage, haul it away. But, yeah, I've definitely heard that a bunch of times. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite ones from along those lines, the person didn't actually get their object back again. But it was a researcher, Jerry Klein, who does research over in Knox and Coshocton County, Ohio, had a audio recorder trap set up, and he was, leaving them Snicker bars and Reese's peanut butter cups and stuff. And one of the things that he left him was a doggy squeezy toy that squeaks when you squeeze it, right? Well, of course, when he got back there, the food was gone, and interestingly, so was the squeezy toy. And he figured, well, that's it for that. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I hope they have fun with it, and apparently I'll never see it again. About 2 years later, 4 or 5 miles away, he had another audio trap set up there where he was trying to get audio recordings of them. And guess what he got on the audio recorder? And he's guessing from about 50 or 60 feet away. That squeaky toy squeaking.
No kidding. Okay,
Yep.
Okay, but logic says, if I think about this logically, all right, logic says that this could be a wolf, a coyote, a fox. Foxes are very playful.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Well, what are the odds they're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning right by one of his audio traps, and that's the only thing he gets in 2 days?
I don't know.
I'd say pretty low.
Well, I mean, it is something to think about. I mean, because in the end, no matter what happens, it's not like the TV show where everything's a Sasquatch. The cameraman farts. That's a Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's a Sasquatch. Yeah.
Okay. But in the end, you still have to have a line of skepticism. Do you not?
Oh, sure. I'm not saying that was definitely a Sasquatch. I'm just saying that's pretty peculiar. And it isn't like he's, he isn't catching lots of other animal sounds and stuff. Of course he is. He's had one roar near one of his audio captures, too, and that was pretty hair-raising. But my point here is that they know where you're setting this stuff up. And more than likely, it was a Bigfoot there that was just messing with them. Yeah, I still got your squeezy toys. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Okay, so...
Because if that's all you're getting in a couple days of audio recording, there's not a lot of other animals around there, and there's just one lone animal with a squeezy toy?
True. Okay, so that leads to my next question about the creature. Is it charmed by its own curiosity?
Oh yeah, that's part of the issue that they have, because they're closely related to us, so they got the same amount of curiosity we got, and for some of them it definitely gets the better of them, which is a lot of people get their sightings and stuff just from the indiscretions of the juvies that are just way too curious. And just like you're a little kid and your parents tell you, don't go out and put no bags of dog poop on people's front porches and set them on fire and ring their doorbell and stuff. That's bad. Don't do that. And what's the first thing the kid wants to do? Well, probably the same thing with them. They're getting a lecture from the adults. Stay away from the humans. They're dangerous. Don't mess with them. You guys go play somewhere. Okay, what do you want to do? Let's go mess with the humans. Okay. And I think that's why you get a lot of these sightings of just really weird, erratic behavior around campsites and stuff, especially. And, a lot of the Bigfoot that they're seeing in these situations are like 7, 8 feet tall. Well, they're juvies. The adults won't mess with you unless there's a reason to do it. They want you to leave. That's usually why you see an adult. It could be any reason why you're seeing a mid-sized one, because they're juvies, erratic, and, hard to predict what they're going to do.
Okay, so if that curiosity is rampant among the juveniles, what are we doing that attracts them? Is it the sound of the vehicles, the sound of our ATVs, the sound of our voices, the smell of campfire, or maybe hot dogs, or the smell of beer if we're having beer, while we're sitting around, lounging around a campfire in a lawn chair? What is it?
Well, one thing it seems is things that they don't like is loud noise. And, we've got plenty of good reports of people that like to go ripping with their little two-wheel, giant mutated insect-sounding motorcycles through certain wooded areas and having rocks thrown at them. Or there's a bar down in Texas that's kind of set back in the woods, and the local bikers, when they come out of there, occasionally get knocked off their bike by something that doesn't like all the noise. Things that they do like is just, music. Not like loud, obnoxious music, but just generally music. People's voices, people talking, laughing, and stuff like that. If you sound like you're having a good time, that's more attractive to them. If it's louder, that's less attractive. If it's really quiet, then they get curious too, because what are these humans doing? There's like 3 or 4 of them sitting around the campfire. They're not even saying anything. They're not making any noise. What are they up to? They see the patterns that their interaction with us is we're out in the woods in their living room doing something, and they're following us around watching what we're doing. So when you start doing something other than what they're used to seeing, they get curious. Blaine Tyler up there in Ontario, he was out there looking for him, and just as an experiment, he brought a Nerf football with him. And when he got out into this one clearing, he noticed there were several of them in the woodline watching him. So he started throwing it up in the air and catching it himself and going, "Hey, it's a football. Here's how we play with this." And he tried to throw it over to them, and they just kind of ignored it. But, again, it was do things that are out of the ordinary. They don't normally see you doing. It keeps their curiosity. You're their entertainment. Mm-hmm. Bear from the Bigfoot Outlaws says that, and that's like classic Bear saying, We are Bigfoot's television.
Yeah.
We come into their living room and we put on a show for them, and they, they're going to take advantage of it. It's something new and different and novel, and let's go check out and see what these idiots are doing.
I have 2 Bigfoot gifting sites, and at my original one, nothing moves except I have about 3 different colored Hot Wheels cars there. I have a bright yellow, a bright red, and a green one. And nothing moves in that except it hasn't happened for a while, but every time for a while there that we went into that Bigfoot site, the green car was moved. And I had that car jammed in this little crevasse between the tree and one of those branches that kind of V's up real tightly against the tree. And there's no way.
So it couldn't have moved by itself. Something physically had to move it.
Yeah, I mean, could it be a bear, a porcupine? For sure. Okay? For sure it could have been. But that one car, like they're not going after any other car. And so that is interesting to me. And then at our other gifting site,
wait, let's go back. Before you progress on, let's go back now. We're talking about which colors: green, yellow, and
red.
Red. Okay, try this. They like white and they like sky blue. Put a car that's white, put one that's sky blue there and see what they do with them.
I will do that. Now at our second gifting site, and I know from you being in our chat rooms, you've heard the story about the nickel. But we have a dollar store rubber bouncy basketball. It fits in your hand, very tiny. And I'm still trying to figure out if that was fingerprints on the ball or not.
Wow. Yeah. They have greasy skin. I got somebody over in the Carolinas that has them around the property, and they find handprints on their windows pretty regularly. I'm trying to get them up to speed on how to dust for prints and lift prints off. They haven't quite figured that one out yet. They're still working on it. But there's no shortage of it. Several times a year they find the big greasy prints on the window. One of them came actually in the house and left a handprint on one of their pillows at one point. That was disturbing. But, it's kind of hard to tell with something like that. I mean, if it looks basically like a human handprint, only gigantic, you're probably on the right track there.
Yeah, I don't know. And that one is still so new. That one's only been up a couple of months. I'm curious to see. And the good part about it is my good friend cable guy Matt, he just got like a 4-seater side-by-side, and he put snow tracks on it, like tank tracks.
Oh, nice.
So we can now officially get into that area with some pretty heavy snow, which is good.
So this would be a good experiment to try, because you can see if they're still hanging around there in the winter, or if they've actually moved to a different area.
That is very true. That's something that we're going to be doing. We have 2.5 minutes left with you tonight in a show, Duke, that is flown on by, as they always seem to when we have great guests like yourself on this show. And I want to say thank you for that. For you being a Sasquatch researcher for 40 years, what's the ultimate goal for you?
I want to hug a Wookiee. Now, the ultimate goal for me is to figure out exactly who these guys are, what they're up to, and how to protect humans from them and vice versa. That's pretty much it for me. General public knowledge. I want people to be aware that they're out there, that they're not such, some horrible monsters. Unless you consider other humans to be horrible monsters, then they're horrible monsters. If you don't think other humans are horrible monsters, then they're not horrible monsters. But they show all the range of behavior that humans use. People need to get up to speed on that and not, try and think they're horrible monsters and that they're going to attack you when you go out in the woods or anything. No, they just want to be left alone. That's, if I was going to give the message to humans from Bigfoot, their message is to leave us alone. Don't pester us. If we want to be friends with you, we'll come find you.
All right, one final question is, we got a minute here. This comes from Terrible Times. Do you think they heal themselves from gunshots or the bullets bounce off?
No, the bullets don't bounce off. They can be killed by gunfire, too. They're good at healing themselves. They got a faster regenerative ability than we do. but it frickin' hurts them, and in some cases it can kill them. So don't shoot at Bigfoot. Bad plan. Another thing to keep in mind with that is that some of the native elders will tell you if you kill a Bigfoot within 7 years, you're going to die. And they generally don't explain why that is. And why it is because these things are all psychic and they'll track you down.
True. My friend, we got 30 seconds left. Tell everybody where they can find your YouTube channel.
All right. Well, on YouTube, I am World Bigfoot Radio. On BitChute, you can find me at Duke at World Bigfoot Radio, all one word, or you can just plug in World Bigfoot Radio into the search engine, which you can also find me on Bright Eon and Library Odyssey by going through that rigmarole. I also do a radio show Friday nights on TFR Live at 11. So if you are wanting to hear more of me talking to other Bigfoot guests, that's where to go check it out. And otherwise, thanks everybody for being here and spending the time with us. I hope you had a fun time and learned something from it. And I'm probably going to have Dave on my show here now, too.
Yes, you will. Duke, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. You hold on. We're coming up next with the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great job, buddy.
Longest show I ever had to do was 5 hours, man. But I didn't have to talk. I was just being a radio DJ on two consecutive shows on KBSE St. Cloud. We were doing a throwback psychedelic jam, and I had a gigantic catalog of Hawkwind albums, and they hadn't heard them. So I lined up 5 hours of nonstop of amazing British psychedelia and took over, Hard Rock Cafe and Granite City Rock, I think, the other one. 2 back-to-back shows, anyway. That was grueling. 5 hours, no. I can talk for 2.5 or 3 hours, no problem. 5,
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That is just awesome. Buddy, I appreciate you coming on this show. Thank you also for starting. You've been in our chat room for a couple of weeks now, and I just want to say thank you for that as well, my friend, and also introducing your audience to our show here as well, because that's how we work this. We're able to work this is by helping everybody kind of come together and grow together. So I really appreciate you promoting this show, you coming on, and all of your fans and friends in our chat rooms tonight. So real classy, man, real classy, and I appreciate that. And continued success in your search, man.
Thanks, brother. You're very welcome. And might I just add to all of you that haven't decided to yet, subscribe to his show. It's good. I've been previewing it. It's good all the time, not just when I'm on. It's always good. Check out his show.
Thanks,
subscribe.
Brother. Thanks, brother. You take care, okay?
Okay. Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. Fantastic guest. Fantastic guest. I got a new beard oil. I do. Gary the Dutchman sent it to me. I'll unveil it for you. It's called the Winter Blend. Now, he's got it all wrapped up here, which is pretty big. So now I just got to figure out how to... I don't even have any scissors here, do I? I do! Yes! Thanks, Dutch. All right. We can open that up. It's called the Winter Blend. MightyMooseBeard.com. So if you got some good whiskers, or for the ladies out there, If you get dry hair, split ends, or anything like that, this stuff's pretty good. It's all natural. It smells fantastic. There's no chemicals. You can get it all in Canadian funds by going to MightyMooseBeard.com. You let Gary the Dutch know that you're using promo code SOR 2019, and off you go. You're off to the races. God, Gary, you got one of these safety things on there too, you bastard Dutchman. I love you. There we go. So, quick demo. Let's open the bottle. The winter blend is my favorite. So I have 2 bottles here. Just squeeze the tip. Open it up. Put a little bit in your hand, just like that. Rub it in your hands. And give your beard some love. Or your split ends some love. One of the two. There we go. A little bit in the beard. Remember, I mean, I think Gary sells these for like 15 or 20 bucks. Okay? He makes them all himself. Okay? And, he's a small operation, but a good operation. And it helps. Final commercial. So make sure you check out MightyMooseBeard.com. And let's do the news thing, shall we? Let's. Oh, that smells nice. Yes, it does work with all sorts of hair. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us on in. It's always a pleasure to earn your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, let's do this thing, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes history coming forward again. It was in the brink of 1947 when the United States, it was in the midst of a Cold War. Scientists were on the mission to discover plutonium fission, and New York's Grand Central Station hit a record of 252,288 passengers. But the most memorable moment of that year could have been the crash at Roswell. Yes, the local paper's front page story reported that the Roswell Army Field recovered a flying saucer on a New Mexico ranch after metallic-looking lights were seen in the sky. The intelligence office of the 509th Bombardment Group at Roswell Army Airfield announced at noon today that the field has come into possession of a flying saucer. Roswell Daily Record reported on July 8, 1947. The statement was given by Jesse Marcel Sr., who was the first on the scene and led the investigation, which he determined were pieces from an extraterrestrial vehicle. However, shortly after the UFO discovery made headlines, the War Department in Washington, D.C. released a statement claiming the debris was just remains of a weather balloon. The United States Air Force stated the weather balloon was part of a Project Mogul's airborne system invented by Columbia University, New York University, and the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution that was designed searched the atmosphere for weak reverberations from nuclear test blasts. Marcel died on June 24, 1986, but his story lives on with his grandchildren, Jesse Marcel III and John Marcel, who says their grandfather never wavered nor changed any details of what he saw that day. He was made to be the fall guy, Jesse says, as he claimed his grandfather was ordered to deny what was really at the site. He was the head of intelligence in Roswell, New Mexico, and followed his orders. In essence, he was at the heart of the story and the heart of the conspiracy or cover-up. The only physical evidence left of this mystery is Marcel Sr.'s journal, which is set now to be revealed during a History Channel 3-part series on Roswell called Roswell, The First Witness, airing Saturday, December 12th. The show follows the investigation of the Marcel children, along with their host and former CIA operative, Ben Smith. What's interesting is that the journal moved from grandfather's hands to our father's and now ours, says Jesse. Inside is a bunch of rambling that doesn't really fit with who our grandfather was. Smith has seen the journal as well, which he said shows a change in Marcel Sr.'s mental state. There are breaks in the journal that are not clear, but it could be a secret code, he claimed. That would be interesting. I came across this on neutral ground. I wanted to determine truth from fiction and represent knowns and unknowns, Smith said. If I didn't think there was more to the story, I would have not have taken on this project. Smith said the investigation lasted for more than a year. He and the Marcel children began speaking with Marcel Sr.'s close contacts and then surviving family members of local Roswell residents who first reported the wreckage to authorities. Scientific methods were also used to investigate the crash site. Smith employed multispectral imagery technology to identify any foreign bodies through their chemical composition. I am not convinced that it's a weather balloon, Smith said, but I am still waiting to complete my decision. Jesse did his duty to toe the publicity line. Here's an interesting one. Smugglers managed to throw a hefty haul of contraband items, including 20 pounds of tobacco and 7 pounds of barbecued chicken, over the fence of a Mississippi prison. They may have gotten away with it if it weren't for the prison security technology. Officials at the South Mississippi Correctional Institution in Leakesville intercepted more than 25 packages containing a number of items, including 4 pounds of marijuana, 38 cell phones, chargers, and earbuds, and cold medication, plus the chicken and tobacco. Some of the items were sewn into footballs so they could easily be thrown over the 18-foot-tall fence surrounding the prison. But the new censoring technology alerted guards to the drop. The unidentified smugglers attempted to throw the packages across a remote section of the prison grounds, but officers were immediately alerted by the sensors and rushed to the scene, arriving in time to intercept the items to see their vehicle drive away. Authorities are searching for the suspects now. The prison has struggled to contain violent gang activities within its walls, and the MDOC said it's items like these that can be dangerous for the inmate safety, especially that chicken. We are making Mississippi prisons safer for inmates and correctional officers by stopping the flow of contraband, said Commissioner Burt Kane. Gang leaders use contraband as ways to control other inmates. Now we're installing and using the latest security systems, drones overhead, and cameras and scanners everywhere. Prisoners found to be connected to the incident will lose eligibility for early release, according to the MDOC. So yesterday, we told you a story about a Maui surfer who was bitten by a shark in Honolulu Bay. Well, he's now died after suffering these injuries, according to authorities. The attack occurred a little before 8 a.m. during the Maui Pro Surf competition on Tuesday. Though the 56-year-old victim was not taking part in the competition, all activity in the area was immediately suspended as the victim was taken to hospital. The victim, a Lahaina resident whose name has not yet been released, was reportedly in stable condition around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but his condition deteriorated quickly after the surgery. He died Wednesday morning. Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources posted photos of the victim's surfboard, which had an enormous portion bitten off, approximately 17 inches wide. It's unknown if others were in the water, and Due Care now reports that water clarity was good. The man was taken to hospital. and admitted for surgery. The statement noted that the standard protocol mandated warning signs remain in place until the next day. The signs have been posted 1 mile on either side of Honolulu Bay. A local shark expert from the University of Hawaii's Institute for Marine Biology said that such a death is rare. Are you kidding me? Sharks eat people. But no, Dr. Kim Holland, it's very unusual. Most attacks don't really result in people dying, fortunately. So this is a terrible turn of events. How about you don't go in the ocean? It's just easy that way. It's easier. Trust me. All right? Look, we're not meant to go in the ocean. That's why they put things in there that could kill us. I'm not taking the chance. I suggest that all of you don't take that chance either. I'm not making fun of this guy dying. Sharks are cool. Sharks are great. They're fantastic for the ocean. I love the ocean. I do. It's just not meant for me or other people. That's why they put killer sharks in the water. And they will eat you because that's their job. They will eat you. An Indiana portable toilet company shared a beautiful festive video of what it calls a world record for the most animated faces on a single holiday lights display. Service Sanitation posted a video on their Facebook showing 32 porta potties adorned with animated faces, not feces, faces, singing the song Hallelujah. How do you butcher Hallelujah with a bunch of toilets? Come on. This is terrible. The Jingle Johns, oh my God, really, have officially set a world record for the most animated faces on a single holiday lights display, the post reads. Steve Dykstra, the brainiac behind this, clarified the feat was not an official Guinness World Record, but the company considers it to be a world record because, so now they're self-titling a world record. You can't just self-title a world record. Guinness has that market. And dude, you dressed up a bunch of deuce boxes. It's terrible. Terrible. Anyways, a Guinness representative said the record-keeping organization does not monitor records involving animated faces on holiday light displays. Thank goodness. About time Guinness tightened it up a little bit. Some of their world records are absolutely ridiculous. Here's a weird one. A Russian military aircraft designed to allow the country's leadership to survive a nuclear war has been crippled. The victim of a particularly brazen burglary. Thieves stole 39 pieces of communications equipment from the Aleutian IL-80 aircraft, nicknamed Maxdome by NATO. The incident took place at the Bereyev Territorial Air Aviation Scientific and Technical Complex outside of the Russian city of Rostov. Inspectors noticed an open hatch leading inside the plane and soon discovered the equipment was missing. The Aleutian IL-80 Strategic Airborne Command Post is a modified IL-86 wide-body passenger jet. Converted for military use, 4 planes were converted, with 1 reserved for use by the Russian president. The remaining 3 planes belong to Special Air Groups Rosoya and are meant to carry members of the Russian General Staff. In a national crisis, the Russian president and military officials would board the aircraft, which would then fly to remote areas of Russia far from any potential nuclear impact zones or encroaching enemy aircraft. The IL-80s are designed to protect their passengers from nuclear war. The planes lack windows except for the flight crew in order to prevent passengers from being blinded by nuclear explosions. Special air filters remove radioactive particles from air entering the aircraft, and the number of interior lights has been reduced. The plane also features an aerial refueling probe, allowing Russia's leadership to loiter in midair or long flying distances for safety. The planes are designed to allow Russian leaders to prosecute a nuclear war from midair. A large canoe-like fairing over the top of the cockpit houses satellite communications gear, preserving a communications link with other Russian military forces. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, but wow, that's brazen to break into that. Totally. Oh, man, I'd hate to be this guy. I really would. Instead of walking down the aisle, a woman in Zambia walked into a courtroom after her boyfriend of 8 years reneged on his vow to marry her. 26-year-old Gertrude Ngoma from Ndola, Zambia, triggered the legal proceedings against Herbert Salaliki, the father of her child from whom she claims had promised to tie the knot. The clearly frustrated fiancé took him to court to demand he outline his plans for the future after becoming tired of waiting, as well as doubting his loyalty after catching him texting another woman. He has never been serious. This is why I brought him to court, because I deserve to know the way forward and our future, she says to the court. In his defense, Salaliki said he wants to marry Ngoma but can't afford it, claiming they don't communicate because she doesn't give him enough attention. The willing bride told the court she feels Salaliki is not serious about their relationship, despite him having already issued a dowry payment. In Zambia, it's traditional for men to pay a lobola, or appreciation fee, to the family of their fiancé as a sign that they will look after their wives. Despite the payment being made, the couple has never lived together, even though they share a child, with Ngoma remaining with her parents. The judge, Evelyn Nalwizi, reports that Ngoma told the court that they could not do anything for her, or the court said to Ngoma they couldn't do anything for her as there was no formal marriage. Well, that was a waste of money. A Scottish couple say they were shocked when a plastic bottle their dog found at the beach turned out to be a message in a bottle that traveled 2,000 miles from right here in Canada. Sharon and Michael Cox said they were walking on the beach of the Isle of Barra when their dog Louie grabbed a plastic bottle out of the surf. The couple opened the bottle and discovered a handwritten note that was dropped in the ocean in Newfoundland. The message reads, "Hi, my name is Kaya, and my Uncle Kurt is writing this letter, hoping that someone will pick it up and see how far it will travel. This is the latitude and longitude where he will drop this bottle from a fishing boat. I live in a small community named Reefs Harbor on the northern peninsula of Newfoundland, Canada." The couple said Kayla's family got in touch after seeing their post about the discovery on social media. The young lady's grandma, who is a community nurse in the area of Reefs Harbor, contacted me, Sharon said. She thanked me for sharing the post and told me Kayla is very excited to know I found the letter. We shall be writing to the address given on the back of the letter and putting it together as well as a wee gift box from Barra, enclosing some notes from Barra's school children to say hello to Kaya as well. That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, moving on. China's aviation authority has made one strange and potentially stinky situation and decision. So, with the China's Aviation Authority releasing new COVID safety guidelines that include now a suggestion that flight attendants do not go to the bathroom but wear diapers to avoid using the lavatories. The Civil Aviation Administration of China's document titled Technical Guidelines for Epidemic Prevention and Control for Airlines offers suggestions for hygiene practices to prevent flight crew members from contracting the coronavirus. The document, which includes recommendations for use of medical masks and other personal protective equipment, drew attention online for one unusual suggestion. It is recommended that cabin crew members wear disposable diapers and avoid using the lavatories barring special circumstances to avoid infection risks. The recommendation comes after a woman flying from Italy to South Korea in August contracted COVID-19 during her trip, and investigators cited her visit to the lavatory, the only place on the plane where she removed her mask, as a possible cause of infection. So if she removed her mask, was it the mask that caused the COVID, or was it her ass that caused the COVID after she dropped her pants? Let's just be honest here. Which one was it? You can't have one or the other. Mask or ass? Let us know. Finally, this is the competition we all want to compete in, everyone. And I mean that. Here we go. A Texas child has just won the best mullet in the country in the kids category. Mullets have been quite the hairdo over time and are often loved or hated, but this Texas boy was praised for his golden locks and took the top prize in the Mullet Champ USA's 2020 Kids Mullet Championship. At 8 years old, Jax received over 20,000 votes and over 50,000 social media reactions, winning first place for his curly mullet, or if you're in Quebec, moulet. According to the contest officials, he also won a $500 cash prize and a gift card package of the Bridge Street Exchange in Fenton. Noah from Illinois was just 12 and won second place along with a $200 cash prize. He also was awarded Neff shades and a gift card package. And 7-year-old Jude from Colorado took third place, winning a cash prize, shades, and a gift card as well. The contest was popular and in turn gained a lot of traffic on Facebook. The winners were determined on October 27th after all the votes were authenticated because, we can't have any fake votes getting passed through during a mullet competition. That is for sure. The contest has blown up with over 20,000 votes from all over the country. It has truly been amazing to see these kids get all the spotlight and have the contest get picked up by local news, radio stations, and even national outlets like Bro Bible and Yahoo. During these tough times, it's important to have fun. That's exactly what 2020 needed, contest officials said. It's really true that this has been a rough year for legit the whole world, so more fun things that happen, the better. Also, mullets, people, listen to this. Mullets are coming back into style, and get ready. You can get your child ready for the 21 mullet contest as well. Bring back the hockey hair. Let's do this thing. Moulet. And if you're bald on top, you can have a skullet, people. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time where we ask for a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What is right or wrong with today's Bigfoot research? Alex, what's right is the recent push using eDNA with the Yeti. That approach could potentially change everything. The bad, the dumbing down of the field by those that reject evolutionary biology, anthropology, and primatology completely. This is a huge problem. And out of all the groups that I have come across, I feel like those in the Sasquatch community have a higher population of individuals that definitely know about these creatures, exactly what they eat, how they migrate, and how they bury their dead. How can you know this? You can't. There are no experts, in my opinion, on any of this. Ghost, Sasquatch, etc. The truth is, we don't know, and it's okay not to know. John, nothing can be proven positive. Jeff, ancient all-ape hypothesis. First Nations, indigenous humans know Sasquatch are a people with family, bands, and language. Jimmy, I don't know, Dave. I hope we never find them because we will want to make them into lab rats. Leave them alone. As far as I know, they have never hurt anyone. They are big game hunters who actually hunt them. That's insane. PBR, research? Research? What is research, Dave? Thank you, PBR. Marty, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. Great clown. Fantastic beard on that one, Marty. What's right is the DNA science will eventually advance enough to prove they exist. What's wrong is that once it's verified that they really do exist, the hunt will be on to bring in a body to verify it. Yes, that is true. Let's get to some more here. Jamie, it's not regarded as a legitimate scientific endeavor. It's regarded as a myth and folklore, so it will be dismissed as such until that changes. Eric, undereducated egomania. That's why we are Eric's fourth favorite show, people. Fourth favorite show. Thank you to everybody who took place in the Thought of the Dave on Facebook and Twitter. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Also, a big thank you to Captain Shirk for getting our SOR Newswire together, because we know Captain Shirk likes a good mullet. Yes, she does. And, of course, to our guest tonight, Duke Sullivan from the Montana Bigfoot Project and World Bigfoot Radio, which you can find on YouTube. What a fantastic show breaking down the Sasquatch legend. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms, Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club at our website, and all the snarkers and snarkettes who are doing a lot of teasing, having a lot of fun at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. You know who you are. You are fantastic tonight. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yep, we've got room for them too. Good night.